Imagine that you are an ordinary high school senior named Seiji Managi, and you are just struggling to survive another boring lecture. Our guy is somewhat of a legend. He believes that today is the best day to take a nap right in the middle of class. But his sleep was interrupted by a mysterious wave, and somewhere nearby a voice whispered about a blessing. He suddenly opens his eyes, but instead of his desk, bubbles are floating around him. Nagi panics, realizing that he is deep underwater. He desperately tries to get to the surface before he drowns. He tries to move, but his arms and legs do not obey at all, while a huge fish watches him without looking away. This is not just a hallucination. He realizes with horror that he has literally become the water itself. His vision expands, sees the entire area from above, as if looking through a drone camera. A huge avalanche of information rushes into his head as if he is downloading the entire Wikipedia of the world. Several days pass as he tries to comprehend that his human life has officially ended. Honestly, being a lake is total bliss. The sunlight is incredible and there is no stress at all. Strange animals began to visit its shores, for example, a horned hare that looks like a rare find from gacha. He realized that his water was loot of the highest level because it could heal any wound or disease. Suddenly, the calm atmosphere trembles. The local wildlife senses that something is approaching. Suddenly, two human children appear, and Nagi understands these are the first humans he has seen in this new world. The children carry a basket of medicinal herbs but look so frightened that they are afraid to use them. Boy Lumina addresses the lake and pleads, "Great Spirit, please heal our mother's illness." They gathered all the herbs they could find, hoping for a miracle from the lake. Tension jumps to the limit. A huge winged wolf emerges from the bushes, like a high-level field boss. This monster is terrifying. Rows of sharp teeth and wings indicate that this is by no means an ordinary small enemy, and the children break out in sweat as the wolf lunges forward to catch them. Nagi does not hesitate and summons a huge whirlpool of water to protect the children. From his liquid perspective, he watches as his power easily repels the predator. Nagi is stunned. He can control the water instantly, without any delay, just by thinking about it. He realizes that looking like a giant blotch is too suspicious, so he begins to materialize a human silhouette. He transforms into a cool figure in a hood, with shining water cascading around his body. He even crafts stylish clothes from the lake itself so as not to look like a complete weirdo. "Now you are safe," he says, extending his hand to the trembling children. The children are so overwhelmed with relief that they simply burst into tears and threw themselves into the arms of their savior. They stand gazing at the mountain ridge, and the boy quietly says, "Who are you?" Neji decides to keep his old name and introduces himself as the spirit of the lake. The children's eyes instantly sparkled with real sparks. They had never seen such powerful magic before. Neji pretends to be cool, admitting that he just got this job. He takes a small ball of water and touches her face exactly where the nasty cut was. The wound instantly disappears. This proves that he has S-rank healing. Girl beams and exclaims to him, "Naji, you are incredible." The boy's face becomes serious, prepares to utter a desperate request. "Please help my mother," he begs, bowing his head and in tears. Nagi gently strokes the boy's head and reassures him that everything will be fine. He makes the children promise that his existence will remain a complete secret to the whole world. He fills their flask with his concentrated healing water, promising that it will cure their mother. The forest teems with dangerous monsters, so he decides that they need a guardian. He creates a small jumping water spirit to guide them home. Suddenly, a system window called Nagipedia pops up. It is here to explain how this works. This is not just magic. Great spirits can create familiars of the same element to be their eyes and ears. The boy feels a strange presence from the small spirit that corresponds to Naga's power. Nagi names the little boy Lu and asks the children to befriend him. They wave goodbye and return to their village with a new friend. Nagi decides that for now, the human form is enough and dissolves back into the depths. He peacefully hovers among the plants, enjoying the quiet life of a spirit. The night sky is reflected on the surface, and he finally begins to feel at home. Here his peace is shattered by another desperate cry for help echoing through the water. A family of dark elves appeared on the shore. They looked as if they had just been through a real war. Father, covered in wounds, begs, "Please save this child, please, please." Naji instantly directs a stream of healing water into the dying child's mouth. The boy's eyes suddenly opened wide. His life force returned in an instant. Their wounds disappear, and the family is moved to tears by the spirit's mercy. Neji grabs his Nagipedia and rummages through it, searching for information about these newcomers. The system explained that dark elves have a powerful connection with spirits and can usually see them. The people here are burly fools who see only enemies in the dark elves. Although they actually oppose the demon race, people still treat them like monsters. Neji addresses them from the water, smiling, "You don't have to be so formal." The elves are stunned. They can clearly hear the voice of the Great Spirit. Nagi tells them that they can live near the lake if they promise not to pollute the water. The family is overwhelmed with gratitude and sincerely thanks him for his kindness. They introduce themselves as Etna, his wife Lena, and their son Gilio. Suddenly, Nagi gets his first permanent neighbors. A month passes and Nagi keeps thinking about those human children. He looks at them through his familiar blurred vision. He sees the children and their mother happy and healthy in their home, and it makes him feel like a hero. He still does not know why exactly he was summoned to this world. But he understands if he can use this S-rank power to save people, that will be a sufficient purpose for him. He vows to save everyone he can reach. Nagi unexpectedly emerges from the lake near Etna, starts a conversation, and she looks stunned. She did not expect his appearance. Etna tells him that since they arrived, no one has suffered serious injuries, and meanwhile he keeps planting seeds in the fertile soil around the lake. "I am looking forward to this," says Nagi with a smile. But suddenly a distorted voice begging for help sounded in his ears. Nagi asks Etna if she heard anything, but the elf girl does not notice it at all. The voice grew louder, turning into a desperate plea to the Great Spirit help the only family of this man. Suddenly, a huge magical circle flared up under Naga's feet. A whirlpool of water and light pulls him inside. He is forcibly summoned away. "Where are they taking our guy and who is pulling the strings?" Nagi wakes up in a strange place and does not understand where he ended up after being dragged through the mysterious magical circle. It turned out that he was called by a barely audible voice begging for help. He finds himself locked in a cramped dark cage, surrounded by a crowd of frightened children. Suddenly it dawns on him, this is not just an ordinary prison, this is a cage for live merchandise. One little half-elf girl desperately prays to the Great Spirit to save her brother Ruto. Nagi realizes, although half-elves usually cannot summon spirits, her pure heart still touched his. He appears before her, his voice ringing and echoing, "I have come in response to your call. I am Nagi, the Great Spirit of the Lake." Seeing the boy unconscious on the floor, he knew that his new healing powers were the only thing that could save the child. Jonah's girl pleadingly asks him to save her only family and is even ready to give everything she has in exchange. Nagi sees Ruto on the brink of death and understands he was called precisely because of the connection to the healing power. Impressed by her strong and kind heart, he decides without hesitation to fulfill her wish. A contract seal with the spirit ignited on her hand, solidifying their new bond. That's it, the contract is made. He smiles and is ready to get to work. Nagi places his hand on Ruto's head and pours a wave of healing energy into the boy. In a moment, the iron shackles that bound the boy shatter like glass as the healing magic takes effect. Other children, from beast-like to elves, froze in shock. Their chains simply vanished. Ruto finally opens his eyes and raises his gaze to his sister, as if he can't believe it. Is this a dream? Naga's heart melts as he sees their reunion, but he knows he can't just leave the rest of these children in this hole. He tells them that they will escape from here, though he secretly sweats from nerves, not knowing how to handle a whole group of orphans. One of the children with fluffy ears nervously asks if it is even possible to escape, and Nagi warmly reassures, as long as he is nearby, nothing threatens them. And suddenly guards appear from the crowd of trash, shouting at the rascals for causing a commotion. But as soon as they see Nagi, they freeze. They are overwhelmed by a crushing feeling of disgust and power. These burly idiots treated the children like trash, and Naga's aura already makes the whole room vibrate. One of them even pulls out a knife and mockingly throws, "Do you really think, Nagi, that you can challenge them?" Naga's eyes cooled as he listened to their threats, and he quietly called them trash. But before the guard can react, Nagi gathers moisture in the air and with a powerful high-pressure stream of water pushes him back. The guards are now in panic, shouting, "Don't come closer," and Megi's water magic begins to swirl around him. He mocks them, throwing, "Would you even believe me if I said I am a great spirit?" Nagi no longer jokes. He summons giant liquid hands that make the attackers look very tiny. He clenches his fist. The water instantly responds and shatters the opponent. He creates a fierce whirlwind that knocks the guards off their feet, leaving them crumpled on the stone floor. The hooligans remain twitching in the puddles, while Nagi stands over them like a true giant. When the nearest threat retreated, he takes out the guards' keys and unlocks the rest of the cells for the other children. More reinforcements arrive. They called him a mage and claimed to belong to legal slave trade. Nagi immediately put an end to that. He is not a mage but a spirit. He points a finger at the leader of the scoundrels and shouts that he has come to save the children from such filthy bastards as they are. He lets the water speak. A giant wave washes away the guards. Nagi gave them one last chilling warning: if from now on you continue to make slaves out of children, there will be no next time. The rest of the guards are so frightened that they almost stumble as they flee. Our guy leads the children out of the dungeon, finally reaches the surface and sees sunlight again. They find themselves in a huge city, and Nagi realizes that he has no idea where he is or how to return to his lake. On top of everything, the boy's stomach growled, and he suddenly understood that he had completely forgotten. People need to eat. He looks into his inventory and suddenly realizes he has no gold at all, so he cannot buy supplies. He rushed into the bakery, but the seller looked at him suspiciously. The boy was traveling accompanied by a whole bunch of gacha characters of different races. Nagi panicked and invented a wild story saying that all these children were his half-brothers, and he was just happy that they were finally together again. He immediately regretted overacting. The baker really started crying because of his made-up story. She gives the children as much bread as they can eat for free, and looking at Nagi reminds him that although there are bad people in the world, there are also good ones. After getting snacks, Nagi surprisingly learns that they are in the city of Ilmus, far in the south of the kingdom of Rugunas. He needs to earn money quickly, so the baker advised him to try trading or crafting. However, Nagi notices the Adventurers Guild and decides that completing a quest is the fastest way to get his bag. He enters the guild, sees the board with orders, and immediately thinks that this is the perfect way to earn money quickly. He approaches the counter with his party and asks the receptionist to register him as an adventurer. On the form, he kept everything simple: name Nagi, race human, profession mage, skill water magic. He receives an official ID card from the lowest rank, 10th class. To keep everything quiet and unnoticed, he chooses a simple outing for herbs. It seemed safe enough for the children to go with him. But just as he was about to leave, a group of high-level adventurers burst through the door, carrying a wounded comrade. Commotion arose in the guild. The team was attacked by a basilisk. Nagi knows that wounds from a basilisk carry a vile curse. Ordinary healing simply does not work on them. Yona looks at the dying elf Philly and begs Nagi to help her. Nagi sighs and says to her, "Leave it to me," although in truth today he did not want to stand out at all. He approaches the unconscious elf and discreetly pours some magic-infused water into our mouth. The crowd is still panicking because of the basilisk, but the curse is already being washed away by Naga's highest-level divine magic. He tells the children to calm down and suggests going to finish their herb quest while everyone is distracted by the miracle. Billy wakes up completely renewed and tells her teammates that the very moment she opened her eyes, she felt a divine presence. She realized it was not just imagination and looked around the room searching for her savior. She sees Nagi leaving the building and rushes after him, shouting for him to wait just a minute. She catches up with him in the alley and bows low, filled with gratitude for saving her life. Nagi tries to pretend to be indifferent but looks at him with incredible intensity. She suddenly drops a bomb and asks him, "Are you the great water spirit?" It seems the secret identity of our guy is revealed in record time. Philly is just shocked, looks into Naga's eyes and finally understands the truth. She directly asked point blank if he really is the great water spirit. Before he could answer, the rest of the squad gone and Shawnees run in and pull her back to bed because she is still recovering. They try to be logical, but Philly's elven intuition buzzes and Nagi starts to sweat seriously from the pressure of possibly being exposed. Finally, our guy simply resigned himself to his fate and confirmed it directly. Philly exploded into a real fan hysteria. She is so stunned that the real god saved her life that she almost vibrates. Nagi manages to catch her before she falls, but at that moment, a new rival suddenly appears. This elderly gentleman Yushin, the guild leader, and he overheard all this revelation. He understands that it is not worth pouring a whole bunch of lore in the corridor, so he invites the whole group back to the guild for a private conversation. When they settle in the VIP lounge, the atmosphere thickens and presses. Finally, the harsh reality of the situation reaches them. Yushin bowed deeply, sincerely expressing immense respect to Nagi for protecting one of his best adventurers. Our guy begins to tell them how this whole journey started with a child calling him. He recounts step by step the entire sequence of events from the rescue to what is happening now. Yushin sighed with relief. The children were pulled out of that nightmare, and now they are safe. But Philly fixated on one detail: the fact that the half-elf managed to summon a great spirit is simply madness. According to legend, only high elves would have such a reserve of mana. This realization struck Yana hard, and she looks as if she carries the burden of the whole world on her shoulders. To sincerely thank her, Yushin extends a huge bag of gold on the road. Nagi froze in amazement. He had no idea how great an influence the title of Great Spirit holds in this world. Yushin is effectively handing him a blank check, take whatever you need. Night descended over the city. Guild building proudly towers under the starry sky. Streets are silent. Neji watches over the children while they finally sleep soundly. He is sincerely grateful that you don't have to accommodate them in such first-class housing. Suddenly, Yona approaches him, completely exhausted. He quietly asks if she is having trouble falling asleep. She quietly bows her head and thanks him once again. There is darkness in her eyes as she tries to find the words. She actually apologizes for being the one who called him. She feels that someone like her shouldn't have such a strong connection. She pressed her palm to her chest, obviously broken. Her self-esteem took a devastating hit after being treated like trash for a long time. Neji suddenly realizes that the wounds from the past made her believe she is not worthy of his protection. Seeing her so distressed because of everyone else's shock broke his heart. He literally trembles with guilt, convinced that she is a burden. But Nagi approaches, gently strokes her head and says that she has absolutely nothing to apologize for. He reminds her, you are his contractor and the one who brought him here. He sincerely admits, glad that she called because it gave him a chance to see the outside world. That is exactly what she needed to hear, and she begins to cry from pure relief. Her moment suddenly breaks off when Philly knocks on the door. He apologizes for disturbing so late. She brings an urgent message directly from the guild. Nagi feels that he definitely knows what this is about. The adventurers step forward and promise to protect the children even at the cost of their own lives while Nagi handles the matter. He turns to Yona and says that he needs to leave for a short time. But when he leaves, she looks devastated. Fear settles in her eyes that he might not return. To seal this, Nagi linked pinkies in a vow and, swearing on his honor, assured that he would return. And that promise finally gives her a sincere smile. Under the glow of the full moon, Nagi sneaks into the depths of the forest. The forest is eerie, and he feels a huge presence lurking in the shadows. Not much time passed, and he already finds his target. A giant basilisk is lurking for him. In the guild, Yushin explained that this monster is a real nightmare with an almost indestructible body. Nagi had already put everything together, realizing that this was the beast that had previously torn apart the team from Philadelphia. Scouts brought even worse news. They found another, a female, who is about to give birth. 2 basilisks are heading to the town in search of food, and the guild has set a reward of 20 million gold for their heads. Yushin was literally on his knees begging Nagi Pelagro to save the city. But Nagi does it not only for the money. He knows that if he doesn't intervene, the innocents will simply be killed. Yushin is burning with excitement. He swears to tell the legend of Nagi to every future generation. Returning to the present, Nagi prepares for the hunt. 2 huge, almost prehistoric basilisks burst out from among the trees. It is clear they are ready to smash skulls. The basilisk fixed its eyes on its prey. Its gaze radiated deadly pressure. Our guy suddenly realizes that his petrifying gaze won't work in this human form, so he decides to switch to a build better suited for a serious boss fight where everything is at stake. He unleashes an avalanche of mana and transforms into a majestic water dragon. He needs an even more powerful form. He breaks into the air without any delay, leaving behind a trail of shimmering water. He soars above the forest and jokes that if he has to fight, it might as well be in the coolest form. The 2 basilisks suddenly realize they have attracted the attention of a creature clearly out of their league when a giant dragon looms over them. They tense up trying to look fierce, but against such power they are sweating bullets. Nagi gives them no chance to recover, releasing a destructive breath that completely clears the vestibule. A beam of energy hit directly into the mouth of one of the snakes, instantly breaking its defense. The power of mana is frightening. It lights up the entire forest with a blinding flash. The explosion tore the ground, forming a crater, and left the surrounding area crumpled like an accordion. Even Nagi is a bit stunned by the destruction and admits that this power is greater than I expected. One of the basilisks even tries to apologize while his partner is being torn apart, but Nagi does not let them off so easily. The last snake, engulfed in despair, screams, "But I will not let you escape." He makes the final strike. It raises a huge water vortex, trying to trap our guy in a water prison. The water bubbles and spins wildly in a whirlpool as the basilisk pours everything it has into the spell. When the fog cleared, Nagi appeared again in human form, completely unbothered, and calmly approached the fallen beast. The giant basilisk is officially out of the game, lying motionless on the forest floor. He reaches out and touches the scales, confirming the kill. He notices another woman with a swollen belly and quietly says, "Sorry," while the guild master looks at them in complete shock. Nagi calmly said that the request was fulfilled, not even suspecting that a guild member was lurking in the shadows of the trees. But our guy is incredibly vigilant. He calmly tells the hidden scout to take the corpse away. Guild member was frozen with surprise. Nagi moved so quietly and so quickly when he was about to return to the city. In the guild office, the boss barely restrains his nerves. He never imagined the quest would be cleared so quickly. He drops to his knees in a deep bow, sincerely thanks Nagi for saving the city, and places a huge pile of gold before her. Nagi froze, looking at the loot. He cannot believe what an incredible amount it is. But the real jackpot is the next gift, a bag box that allows its owner to carry an infinite amount of luggage. Nagi is truly impressed by this opportunity. He realized that now he can stash as many things as he wants. The old man has not yet said his last word and pulls out another reward. Here is the official plaque proclaiming, Nagi is now a 4th-class adventurer. Nagi is stunned by the rank. The boss calmly says, you deserve 1st class, but right now I can only assign 4th. Outside, people from the guild are already loading a huge serpent onto a cart to properly evaluate it. Nagi gently and politely thanks for everything, preparing to set off. He grabs his new magical bag and hesitates whether to go straight to the lake. When the sun sets over the city, Nagi begins to piece together troubling legends. He knows that basilisks usually stay far from people, so he wonders why they came so close to the city. He freezes in place and asks himself if someone deliberately moved them to provoke a crisis. He stands still for a moment alone on the street, feeling that something much bigger is brewing. His dark thoughts were interrupted when he saw Philly and the children waiting for him in front of the tavern. They couldn't wait for his return. They insisted on meeting him personally. The children looked at him with pure, sincere admiration and shouted, Lord Nagi, welcome home. The guy finally barely smiled and replied, I'm home. Children literally pounced on him in a tender, sincere group hug. He tells them to get ready because tomorrow they are heading to his lake. He describes the lake as a peaceful paradise where dark elves live happily. He is confident the children will quickly find their place because they have all already gone through similar trials. Billy and her company stand aside and watch intently as if they have something important on their minds. Billy approaches him, her voice soft. She is simply glad that he returned safe and sound. She says that they owe him gratitude that they will never truly be able to repay. She took a deep breath and said to him, Lord Nagi, I have a request. She asks hopefully if her entire retinue can accompany him on the journey. He says she wants to repay his kindness by helping him. The rest of the boys lend her their support and promise to help protect the city and the children. The children are delighted, shouting joyfully because their older sister is going with them. Nagi notices that the children have completely melted and become attached to the group. Billy and the boys bow low, humbly asking his permission to join. Nagi extends his hand and accepts, sincerely thanking them for the offer. From now on, I am counting on you, he says with a gentle smile. Billy looks as if she just won the lottery, her face glowing with joy. The rest of the day, the group fussed with preparations and visited the local tailor for new gear. The children in their new travel outfits look simply incredibly cute. Townspeople gather to say goodbye, and one woman with tears in her eyes tightly hugs Nagi for saving their lives. Billy and the team stand ready by the wagon, like true adventurers. Nagi receives the last heavy bag of money for basilisk materials. Yashin, the guild master, personally came out to see them off. He tells Nagi to come anytime and promises that the celebration will be even grander on his next visit. Nagi jumps onto the wagon and asks if everyone is ready to depart. With the final shout, all right, let's go, the group sets off to the lake to begin their new life. The squad officially set off from Ilmus to the lake, making their way through the dense forest, while a mysterious bird watches them intently from the shadows. The heart melts at how the children shine with excitement at the landscapes, heading towards the next destination, the city of Ronin. On the road, Gandon and Shaunas work at full capacity like tank commanders, zealously teaching the little ones the most essential self-defense techniques. Meanwhile, Nagi checks if they have magical talent, and with surprise and admiration discovers that Yona and Rat are actually growing into elite units. He begins to show them how to control the elements, helping to awaken the potential of spirit magic within themselves. Billy and our guy behave like proud parents, teaching the little ones the basics while spending the night under the stars. Now he only dreams of a comfortable bed when they reach the city, but the gods of misfortune are definitely not on his side today. As soon as they arrived at the local tavern, the owner immediately cuts them off, shouting, "Sorry, we have no free spots today, try somewhere else." It turned out that Ronin was packed to the brim, and they officially could not find a place anywhere in the city. Even Gandon and Shanna look exhausted, as if they just went through a tough underground raid after failing to find any manor for rent. This is a complete dead end, and the team begins to realize that there is absolutely no hospitality in this city. Yona tries to hold on and tells Lord Nagi that they are perfectly fine sleeping in the dust, like some ordinary soldiers. Just as they were about to surrender, a local boy began circling around, as if deliberately trying to attract the enemy's attention. The crew instantly switches to combat mode, looking as if ready to pin down anyone who dares to approach. But it turned out to be just a frightened boy who swears he is not suspicious at all. Nagi sees that the team is already too tense, so he lightens the mood and explains that they are just travelers unfamiliar with these lands. The boy's face lit up and he offers to lead them to a secret place. Follow me. Billy quite justifiably sweats at the very thought of following some random NPC into a dark alley. But Nagi gives her that main hero smile and promises, "I'll protect you if anything goes wrong." The other team members were so moved that they practically dedicate their whole lives to him, and that's already too much even for our guy. The boy led them all the way to the outskirts of the city and finally stopped by a building that looked completely secluded. They are greeted by a kind woman named Marina. She warmly welcomes everyone, even though there are too many people here. She says with a smile not to worry, there are enough beds here for everyone. Turns out this is an orphanage under the care of the religion of Sarah, a place where everyone strives to save the weak and extend a hand to those in need. Nagi feels a little guilty for breaking into the charity house, but he knows he must do everything to ensure the children there are not frightened by the group of equipped adventurers. He tries to look calm, passing himself and his team off as harmless travelers. Nagi quietly explains that the children with them are refugees. They are looking for only one thing: a safe place to live. Yona steps forward and delivers an incredibly touching speech, convincing the other orphans that Lord Nagi and the others are good people who sincerely care about them. She promises they will be good children, just allow them to stay for one night. Nagi is simply moved when he sees how bravely Yona acts for the sake of the group. The local children immediately picked up on this idea. With wide smiles, they warmly welcomed their new friends. Nagi gently strokes Yona's head for a job well done. Billy beams with pride and thanks Yona for the courage to frankly say what she thinks. The entire squad solemnly bows to Marina and asks for shelter for the night. Nagi did not intend to be a burden on others, so he handed over a heavy bag of gold that any gacha whale would envy. Marina is stunned by the amount, but Nagi insists that it is a fair exchange for her kindness. Having received funding, Marina spares no effort and prepares a real feast, as if straight from a luxurious tavern. Billy jumps up to the stove, helps cook, and makes sure everyone is full. During dinner, Marina admits that most of the shelter workers left for better-paying jobs, leaving her to carry the entire burden alone. Nagi asks about Sarah's religion, and Marina explains that they live by helping those in need. She says their faith is based on the goddess of water and the will of the king of water spirits. This grand revelation about Nagi: he is the true king of the water sphere, whom these people worship. He sits sweating and barely containing his excitement, while everyone praises his divine aura. Marina notices that he has stopped eating. She asks if he is already full. She admits that she sets aside leftovers so the children can eat properly when everyone returns tomorrow. Her dedication so inspired the orphans that they vowed to work twice as hard to help. Her support moved Marina to tears. She realized she was not fighting alone. Nagi looks at this sincere, warm moment and suddenly understands, as their true god, he must intervene. Late at night, Marina bowed in prayer and begged the king of spirits to protect her. Eggy decides the time has come to intervene. He begins to manifest his power. Droplets of water in the air start to swirl. Marina is simply stunned, barely able to comprehend that a great spirit appears in her room. Nagi, speaking through the water spirit, told her that her selfless deeds deeply moved him. He extends to her the spirit stone, a rare highest-level artifact worth a fortune. He tells her that his wish is for children to be happy and insists that she sell the stone. Marina cannot believe her luck, bows low, and asks how she could ever repay such divine grace. Nagi simply says, "Protect the children and love them, that will be your reward." Next morning, Nagi and his team set out on the road. He gives Marina a final encouraging word: keep doing your best. As they leave, Marina looks as if she has just been completely rebooted. She shines and has become more determined than ever. Nagi approaches the team and asks what we do next. Gand and Shawnee spare no effort. Day after day, they extract information in the guild, monitor the weather, and check if aggressive monsters are lurking on the roads. They even got themselves a mansion for the next 3 days. Finally, the team can relax in luxury. But as soon as everything started to improve, that creepy raven from before perched in the trees and began watching Nagi. The bird really spoke and whispered to him that we will meet very soon. Nagi stands rooted to the spot, completely not understanding what kind of strange creature this is. The raven flies towards a mysterious room where a hidden figure watches how everything unfolds. This mysterious boss watches Nagi through a crystal ball and suddenly reveals his deepest secret. He was reincarnated from Japan. Neji and Gan check the route to the lake when suddenly everything goes wrong. The guild buzzes with rumors. Monsters along the highway are becoming very aggressive. The atmosphere becomes even heavier when they say that a black dragon was spotted over the neighboring town. This is not some minor enemy. Dragons are noble creatures that almost never show themselves to humans. Gon understood that leaving now would mean putting the children under their care at great risk. Suddenly, a guild worker loudly drew the attention of everyone near the bulletin board. The secretary is standing all sweaty as she announces a sudden surge in monster activity. After a thorough investigation, they realized with horror that the situation was much worse than they had thought. This is not a simple skirmish. They are facing a fierce monster invasion or a critically dangerous crowd panic. To prevent the city from collapsing, the guild calls every adventurer of 5th rank and above it's time to get to work. They offer a fat stack 100,000 loss to everyone who joins the conquest squad. Nagi doesn't even hesitate. He asks Gon if he is ready to go to the front line. He suggests the others stay behind and look after the children while they take on the hard work. And of course worries that Nagi will rush into the fire. But Nagi simply gives him that calm smile of the main hero and says that this is the only way to clear the path for their journey. He just rushes through the quest so that everyone else feels safe. They are going to the registration place where it is already crowded with a huge crowd of players. Nagi notices Frio, an elf, extremely sensitive to the crazy spirit aura emanating from him. 4th rank pugilist named Fail approaches them. It is clear that he is ready to cause a commotion. Nagi says that he is a water mage of the 4th rank, but we all know his stats are simply off the charts. Guildmaster Jild comes out on stage and demands absolute silence. He sternly warns, those who cannot keep secrets leave the hall immediately. The room was pierced by icy cold. Everyone froze, waiting for the moment when everything would become known. He drops a bomb, and immediately the Adantator rushes straight to the city. Only one name and a wave of panic swept through the experienced adventurers. This monster is a type of half-dragon, 10 meters of pure aggression, known as a ravenous demon crawling on the ground. This is exactly the high-level threat that drives all other monsters out of this area. The plan is simple: to set up a defensive line and stop this tank before it reaches the residential areas. Jill confesses, although everything is going slowly, if it crosses the line the damage will remain forever. The strongest begin to introduce themselves, and here is Narg, a 2nd-rank spearman who looks like a real mountain. And also the twins Luo and Neo. One is a healer, the other is a magical swordsman. Rio tries to introduce himself, but that guy literally trembles in his boots. He is a spirit magic user, and just being near Nagi fills him with real horror. The guildmaster distributes reconnaissance reports, so the squad begins to weave their theories. Character. First, correctional school iron gates. Each participant grabs a sheet to study the boss's attack patterns. Nagi and his new team review the data and realize this cleanup will not be easy. Arj steps forward and immediately suggests choosing a leader for the raid. The group unanimously agrees they need someone with a high rank and charisma who will prevent them from total failure. Most experienced adventurers are too scared to lead. Veiled immediately nominates Narj, noting how well he has led the group so far. The rest of the squad covers the play. Narj cautiously asks if anyone objects. After all, a 1st-rank player is sitting in the room. Amid wild applause, Narj officially becomes the raid leader. Nagi is truly eager to see how these high-level adventurers coordinate their actions. He decided to keep his true power in the shadows until everything turns into a real disaster. The meeting ends. Narge reminds everyone that the real battle begins tomorrow. Rio, still head over heels for Nagi, offers to host the entire company at his home. Nagi tries to politely decline. His friends are waiting. Frio stubbornly insists on bringing the whole team to his huge mansion. When they returned, Philly simply loses her mind. She is hysterical because Nagi signed up for a death mission. Dan just shrugged. He knew that even if he tried, he wouldn't be able to resist Naga's sincere eyes. Just then Frio and Fail appear at the door to escort our guy to the mansion. Nagi explains the situation to Philly and introduces her to his new friends. Fail is simply happy to be nearby on this trip. Freed, Frio sincerely prides himself that a person of such caliber as Nagi lives under his roof. Later that night, the girls curiously ask, why does Frio treat Nagi like a true god? Nagi finally gives up secrets and reveals the truth. He is a great water spirit. He passionately explains his mission to reach the lake and why he protects the children. Frio was moved to tears by Naga's mercy. Vale finally understands. Naga's mysterious presence now makes sense. She sincerely admits that she followed him because she knew he was not just a random traveler. They shook hands, swearing that the conquest would succeed and Nagi would reach his goal. Next morning, the children and Philly waved them goodbye, quietly praying for their safety. With faithful companions nearby, Nagi sets off to meet the dragon. Everyone is sweating nervously because the destruction of the Adantators is finally beginning. The magical unit lines up in position to draw enemy attention and cover the fighters on the front line while the rest of the team sets up the defensive perimeter. Our guy Nagi is not just standing idle, he is launching top-level terraforming, preparing the battlefield. He controls water and earth without any pause, creating a huge zone of destruction. He sets a huge swamp trap, like a real danger for any boss. The soil here is naturally clayey, a perfect trap. Once it grabs hold, anyone who steps on it will simply be crushed. The magic circles are already charged, the defensive line is ready, the air is thick with tension and anticipation. The squad receives an order to rest. Scouts report that the real raid will begin at dawn. While Nagi rests, the twins Neo and Luo approach him, completely mesmerized by his magic. They have a serious request. They want to ask for some of his time once this mission is over. They dropped a mysterious phrase, "There is someone we want you to meet." Nagi is clearly filled with curiosity and cannot help but wonder who is behind this mysterious invitation. These two are so desperate that they literally get down on their knees and plead with him to agree to the meeting. Nagi scans the room looking for any suspicious signs, but realizes that everything here is 100% real. He agrees to meet their contact, but for now must focus and prepare for tomorrow's main event. Morning strikes, ground begins to tremble so strongly, as if the entire map is shaking. A giant, mountain-like foot slammed into the ground. It was a sign. The Adantator has arrived. This huge idiot rushes straight at the city like a real destructive bullet. Breaks through stone walls as if they were wet paper, showing terrible raw power. The boss heads straight into Naga's swamp trap. As soon as it steps inside, the team instantly sets up an ambush. The giant turtle is stuck in the mud as if it was finally caught in the CC chain. Some minor enemies in the group think they have already won, but experienced hunters know this battle is just beginning. The monster starts pushing through the mud, forcing the mages to activate explosive mines. A powerful explosion shook the entire district, debris scattered in all directions. Even Nagi must defend against shockwaves while the battlefield turns into a continuous war zone. When the smoke cleared, the monster was still standing as if the powerful explosion hadn't touched it at all. The squad begins to panic, shouting, "What, even this doesn't work?" Adantator lets out a roar and it really causes physical damage, breaking protective barriers. Nagi realizes the front line is about to be wiped out, so he instantly creates a huge water vortex. "I put up a barrier instead of a wall," he shouts, stepping forward to take on the entire defensive phase alone. Seeing the absolute calm of the main hero, the physical attackers rushed forward, trying to land several hits. They swing massive blades and axes, trying to find a weak spot in that thick armor. They strike with all their might with powerful blows, and the boss's health bar barely moved. Nagi watches as the situation rapidly goes downhill. The monster's roar is so hoarse that it literally knocks out lower-level adventurers. Frio, the elven wizard, realizes he is losing the trade, and to buy time, summons a huge golem. This time, this stone tank bursts into the boss, trying to hold the line. Delivers a powerful blow, but the Adantator is simply too sturdy. The golem is crushed with a single counterattack, leaving Frio and the others completely exposed. The monster charges a finishing blow that could wipe out the entire hall. Nagi intervenes with a calm look. "Frio, I'll handle the rest." He begins channeling a huge amount of mana, and a giant water dragon takes shape before their eyes. The water spirit looms over the battlefield, radiating an aura as if it were a god itself. Nagi releases the spell, and the dragon instantly lunges forward. Direct hit, the massive stream of water simply sweeps away all of Adantator's defensive barriers. The monster is engulfed by a swirling vortex of pure elemental power. As the rain begins to fall, the dust settles and it turns out the beast has been completely neutralized. Wounded hunters begin to wake up shocked because their wounds are truly healing under the mystical rain. No one can comprehend how this top boss simply disappeared. They all bustle about searching for an answer, completely unaware of the authoritative reproach you just flaunted. Our guy decides to hide his true self. He lifts the spirit stone and says he was just lucky. He tells them, "It seems the great water spirit took pity on me and helped," and the group fully believes it. They return to the guild to celebrate the victory with a huge banquet. Gent is the only one missing because he is currently dying of a hangover in Frio. The quest is completed and Nagi suddenly remembers the promise he made to the twins. They lead him to the outskirts of the town, whispering all the while that their master was watching his every step. They approach a cabin hidden deep in the forest, strangely modest for such an important person. But as they near the door, Neo and Lua reveal that it is actually a magical gate. They activate a high-level teleportation circle, and the entire room begins to glow. Nagi steps through the threshold and finds himself in a magnificent hall, where a mysterious figure awaits him. The old man with a legendary beard greets him and exclaims, "You are the great spirit of water." And then he dropped a real lore bomb. He called Naga's true name from her past life, Sayajima Nagi, right? The tension in the room reached a breaking point when the old man fired a huge bomb of secrets. He knows that our guy's real name was Sayajima Nagi. Even before Nagi can grasp how that sage learned his secret, the old man begins weaving shining kanji in the air, revealing who he really is. It turns out he is not just some random NPC, but also a fellow countryman from Japan, Agatsuma Yuki. His appearance is so bright that it seems like he is showing off his premium gacha effects just to make a dramatic entrance. He stands there like a legendary unit, and finally I can assign a name to this face. Vale completely loses composure, shouting in Japanese as if she just saw a glitch in the Matrix. Luo and Neo twins are simply told to go play while the adults discuss their matters. The sage does not want to spoil the mood at all. With a snap of his fingers, he seemingly summons a real high-level set out of nowhere, catching Nagi off guard, and the game's physics just give up. It turns out this legendary sage is actually quite playful. You just have to step beyond his frightening aura. While they were drinking tea, the sage suddenly dropped a real bomb, a harsh truth about the timeline, and said that he has been living in this world as the Sage of Foresight for about 300 years. In Japan, he was an ordinary businessman until suddenly, without warning, he found himself in another world. Here is where the math starts to break my brain. Nagi left Earth in 2033 and the sage in 2024. Although on Earth there are only 9 years between them, in this world the sage trained for centuries. This is a colossal distortion of time. 9 of our years here equal 300 years. This is a real sharp lag in the very fabric of space and time. The sage reveals that Nagi is actually the 4th reincarnator on this server, and apparently he is the most powerful of all. He explains that every few decades people appear from Japan who trigger changes. They are essentially the world's way of forcibly pushing a new update to keep everything interesting. He has been using his gift of foresight for years to monitor Naga's arrival. Remember that creepy raven that was stalking our guy? It turned out to be the sage trying to contact him. He apologized. Our spiritual connection was like trying to watch a stream on a single Wi-Fi band. Nagi understands that the bird was not a threat, but merely a too slow messenger. Hearing the word smartphone again after all this time hit Nagi right in the heart. We were briefly told about other players. The first turned out to be the legendary hero Takashi Mitoba. He founded an entire kingdom before he died. He was effectively the MVP of his era, the one who founded the kingdom of Takasal. And there is another guy who is now enjoying himself on a tropical island, living the good life while everyone else carries a heavy burden. What a contrast, one the creator of a nation, the other just a guy dreaming of an eternal vacation. Things get serious when the sage asks Nagi for a huge favor for the sake of the twins. It turned out that Neo and Lua are not just random mages, but surviving princes of the destroyed magical kingdom Lunatia. That place flourished until it was wiped off the map 18 years ago. The sage has secretly raised them since an old friend brought them to him as infants. These children are essentially units with a very high mastery threshold. Alone they cannot cast spells, but when they combine their powers they create such large-scale spells that usually require a whole raid team. The sage wants Nagi to take them on his journey, because living in isolation has completely ruined their communication skills. He saw the future and knows Nagi is the key that will allow them to establish connections with other people. He even bows to our guy, and it is clear how sincerely he cares about the growth of his student. Seeing this legendary sage move to tears clearly shows he is not just some cold-blooded genius. Nagi sees how much the sage loves these two and cannot say no. He swears right here and now, if he already has this crazy power, he will use it to save everyone his hands can reach. This is a truly heroic moment, and the sage looks genuinely grateful for it. Before they set off, the sage gives some useful advice and also suggests that Nagi teach other children magic. And then comes the hardest part, saying goodbye. Twins officially join the team and recognize Nagi as their new master. The sage smilingly reminds, you can always teleport back to visit, so this is not a farewell forever. Children finally smile. They realize that their new adventure is really beginning. Then the sage turns his gaze to Fail, as if asking himself whether she will really follow Nagi. He feels that she has her own secret reasons to stay close. Nagi does not sense any ill intent from her, so he allows her to join him without hesitation. Fail blushes confusedly and stammers, saying she is only going so that Nagi no longer does things his own way. The usual prank from Sander, and the whole company just laughs out loud. The sage watches them go and quietly prays that happiness accompanies our boy on his journey. The new team is finally officially formed. Luo, Neo, and Fail have joined the squad. Fail has already found common ground with the younger children and behaves like a true older sister. Even the twins are slowly opening up, though they are still getting used to people constantly pointing out they definitely have identical faces and hair. Nagi sincerely thanks Frio for all the help, and as a token of gratitude he gives her a water spirit as a familiar. Everything is settled, they pack their things into the cart and set off for the next town. But the mood instantly changes. The scene sharply throws us into a dark landscape where people have actually caught a black dragon and chained it with glowing chains. This creature is a real nightmare, and it is clearly not thrilled about being locked in a cage. It tears out a horse curse and promises to destroy every person it sees. If this is exactly what awaits Nagi in the next zone, our guy better be ready for a real boss fight. The team finally arrives at Mariel, a bustling city right on the border. After a long month of traveling, our guy Nagi decides to camp here for 10 days so everyone can recover their strength. But while the rest of the squad naps, Nagi seems to have an internal radar starting to beep. He is overwhelmed by a heavy feeling of anxiety. He looks out the window and notices a huge vortex of dark energy wildly swirling in the night sky. The Vidi are completely destroyed, and Nagi feels a soul-wrenching wave of pain and hatred emanating from the very source. He is curious, but he will not leave his companions unprotected to go on a solo expedition. He makes the move of a true pro gamer, summoning a powerful high-level water spirit to hold the defense. This tiny but incredibly energetic Suiko immediately calls Nagi dad, and without hesitation takes her place. Having secured the base, Nagi quietly slipped into the night and followed that dark presence all the way to the basement of the neighboring mansion. He understands the target is hidden deep underground beneath several layers of magical protection. Nagi has no time for a stealth build, so he simply breaks the barrier as if it were glass. He falls into the deepest part of the pit and finds himself face to face with a real nightmare. A gigantic, terrible creature, shackled in shining chains, radiates an aura of pure power. It is a dark dragon, and even in a weakened state, the pressure from it is simply insane. The monster calls itself Diazotis, and Nagi calmly reveals his true nature. He is a great water spirit. This burly beast is at the limit of its strength. It admits that it can no longer even flap its wings. He says that he once lived in the demonic abyss until humans pulled a sneaky trick. While he was out hunting, they sneaked up and stole his egg, using it as bait to lure him into a trap. Now he wears dragon shackles and cursed spells that literally eat away at his soul. The dragon, completely broken, begs Nagi on his last breath to save my child from the hands of those arrogant humans. Nagi will not allow the legendary creature to die like a common mob, so he offers to heal its incurable wounds. Diazotis considers it impossible, but Nagi's magic is arranged completely differently, and in an instant he fully restores the dragon's health. The dragon looks at him as if a gacha god has just descended. Nagi does not stop there. He grabs the legendary shackles and tears them from the ground with a zero leg. Diazotis is literally sweating from the sheer power of the spirit, who just easily overcame the cursed seal. To escape, Nagi doesn't even try to find stairs. He simply breaks through a huge hole right through the mansion's roof with an explosion. When they fly into the sky, Nagi has to remind the fiery dragon not to level the city to the ground. His friends are still sleeping there. They rush to the palace in the neighboring city, where the egg is held captive. Nagi knows if the dragon rushes into attack, he will attract attention again and be captured again, so he decides to go alone in spirit form. He becomes a tiny drop of water to slip past the high-level guards patrolling the corridors. He manages to slip into the treasury, but he encounters a strong twist. There are not one, but two eggs hidden there. Neji realizes that he cannot pass the eggs through walls like his body, so he decides to protect them both. He creates a grand distraction, floods the entire treasury, and emerges from the building, sliding on a real tidal wave. He meets with the dragon and gives the loot, but Diazotis suddenly notices something strange. One of the eggs belongs to the black sacred beast named Narsh. They say he brings insane wealth and brilliant fame. Suddenly the egg glowed and began to absorb Nagi's mana. Returning to the city, the dragon asked how he could possibly repay such a huge debt. Nagi only smiles, already making a plan for his new dragon companion. Nagi and the cat girl exchange glances. The city is so noisy that it feels unsettling. Our guy feels that something is wrong and decides they need to rush to the lake much earlier than planned. Billy sweats with anxiety over all this organization and reminds him that crossing the border without permission is practically a death sentence for their plans. Nagi is not worried at all. He starts assigning tasks, orders the squad to scatter and gather food supplies for at least a month. He drives Luo and Neo into continuous, exhausting searches for rare, high-quality materials to collect enough and build 3 huge houses for the whole team. While Philly leads others to get new clothes, Nagi decides to pull aggro into the hardest task, finding professional builders. He walks straight to the guild, hoping to find a master carpenter who is not afraid to move a little. Walking the streets, his delicate perception fluttered. He feels a huge wave of distorted energy and malice flowing from the neighboring buildings. The dark aura was so thick that he seemed to see it, and it smelled of pure corruption. He begins to catch psychic echoes of half-people, those illegally turned into slaves. The word slaves hits him like a debuff, and his face instantly becomes cold. Suddenly he realizes right beneath his feet are people trapped, suffering in some secret dungeon. A vision suddenly flashes in his mind, frightened children crying for help for our guy. This is a boundary he will never cross. Without hesitating for a second, Nagi, by the power of his spirit, simply slips through the sidewalk. He finds himself in a dark, damp sewer network that resembles a map of a maximum security prison. Stagnant air seems to say, this place is a real nightmare for anyone stuck inside. Most people in cages look like complete junk, as if that is exactly where they belong. But suddenly he notices an elf and a gnome. Their energy is completely pure, proving they were framed. Elf prisoner notices how the irritating spirit forms and, holding his breath, whispered, "Great Spirit." He begged for salvation, his voice cracking from pure despair. Chaos erupts throughout the dungeon. A rumor spreads that the Great Spirit has appeared. The muscular fool in the neighboring cell tells him to shut up, treating the innocent prisoners like trash. Nagi doesn't play such games. She immediately doused that guy with a strong directed stream of water to make him shut up. He materializes into a physical body, starts breaking locks, and tells everyone, "Quiet, someone is coming." Gnome is shocked but admits that even if he is freed, he has nowhere to go. Nagi smiles slyly and asks the most important question, "Does that mean you would want to leave if there was somewhere to go?" Dwarf realizes that Nagi is serious and admits he would do anything to get out of this hole. He says bitterly that they have lost everything and have no chance of survival outside. "They took away our homeland," he says sadly, showing hands clearly made for the forge. Nagi, full of enthusiasm, tells them her plan about the lake and offers a place in her new village. He fires off a phrase any main hero would be proud of: "If you don't have a native land, we can create it." Of course, he adds a bit of gamer greed, honestly admitting that he just wants them to build big houses for him. The prisoners were filled with gratitude, and even the fluffy half-humans begged to join the celebration. Suddenly, the real criminal himself roared, begging to be lifted up, assuring that he also knows how to build. They look simply pathetic, begging Nagi to take them away from deserved punishment. The dwarf warns Nagi, "These guys are real criminal slaves, they must be avoided at all costs." Nagi scans the room and notices one guy sitting in the back. He truly has a pure heart. He, like a ghost, flies through the bars and asks that guy why a person like him ended up in such a place. The poor guy finally confesses. He was framed by his best friend, the same one who stole his money and took his girlfriend. Beggy decides that this guy has suffered enough and firmly tells him, "You don't belong here." He grabs the innocent one and prepares to make his move while the other criminals howl incessantly. Nagi releases a huge tidal wave that sweeps his new team out of the dungeon in one sweep. Small enemies only bang against the bars and wonder why they never get lucky. Nagi looks back without a drop of pity and says to them, "You brought this on yourselves." He leaves him behind, throwing a cold reminder they need to be properly rewarded for real crimes. The group finally got out onto the street and breathed the fresh city air again with relief. Gnome is already delighted, promising to build Nagi as many houses as he wishes in their new homeland. The rabbit and cat demi-humans are also ready to sink their teeth into work and promise to give their all to repay his kindness. Nagi realizes that essentially he has just taken in an entire village of people who have nowhere else to go. He smiles, assures that everything is fine, and promises to introduce them to his other companions. When the main group sees the refugees, Philly and the girls cannot hold back tears upon hearing their tragic fates. Nagi shifts his attention to the poisonous mist crawling through the city and feels time slipping away. Billy notices that local merchants are already packing up their shops even before logistics completely breaks down. Nagi decides to spend one last day in the city stocking up on everything necessary for daily life. The sun rises on their last morning, and the city seems like a vestibule for ghosts. There are far fewer people, and Nagi notices that even his gold no longer stretches as far as it used to. Suddenly, a loud voice broke the silence of the street and announced that the store is almost closing. Nagi was wandering among the shelves of the local shop when the saleswoman Almina suddenly greeted him with open arms. The place is simply bursting with things from simple trophies to the most powerful magical artifacts. Suddenly, a crystal ball on the shelf begins to glow as if striving to reach the highest level. Almina explains with a tremor in her voice, this rare item is made to respond to the presence of spirits. It seems that the brighter the light shines, the closer and more powerful the spirit appears. The ball explodes fully, a dazzling flash almost completely lights up the entire store. Almina cannot believe her ice thing seems to turn into a mini-sun. Realizing he can no longer hide this, our guide drops a bomb. You know what? Actually, I am a great spirit, truly very powerful. This revelation was too much for her brain. Almina couldn't stand it and collapsed face down on the floor. In a moment, she finally opens her eyes, completely stunned by the truth. As soon as she regains consciousness, curiosity tears her apart. Why did the mighty spirit descend into an ordinary human shop? Nagi explains the plan to move to the lake, and Almina instantly understands they will need serious transport for daily items. Without blinking, she immediately asks, in that case, why not entrust me with the logistics? Finally, she says that she was going to close the shop today anyway because she is moving. She almost begs to join him. Please allow me, Almina, to join you, Lord Nagi. To sweeten the deal, she offers as a bonus to bring all items from her inventory without exception. As soon as the merchant class opened, Almina officially joined the squad the very next day. The crew finally leaves Mariel behind and sets off deeper into the forest, heading to their new base. While others worry about going too far from the border, Nagi says he is actually meeting someone special. Suddenly, a huge shadow covered the sky, and a chill ran down everyone's spine. A towering black dragon descends, and from its aura of pure power, everyone in the group feels uneasy. The size of this creature is bone-chilling, and others scream in pure panic at the sight of the legendary black dragon. Everyone recognizes him, the very same monster that has recently appeared here and spread terror throughout the region. But Nagi calmly steps forward and explains that Diatotus is a victim who tried to retrieve the child taken by humans. The dragon bowed his head, looking directly at them, and said, I have come today to repay Nagi for saving my life and my child. Nagi looks into the giant eye of the dragon and realizes they finally have the perfect mount for fast travel. The rest of the group simply fainted from shock, so the dragon creates a water bubble to safely carry them all. They soar into the sky, gliding through the clouds as if they have no delay at all. Diatotes looks at Nagi, concerned whether she is shaken too much during the flight. Only little Yona remained conscious, and she was the one who noticed that the dragon actually has very gentle eyes. Nagi tells her about the family of dark elves waiting for them by the lake, hoping she will befriend a boy named Helio. Yona blushes, clearly delighted. Finally, she has a place she can call home. While they were clearing the path, the dragon noticed their goal. Yona's eyes lit up when she saw the water, and she exclaimed, Incredible, it's beautiful. The dragon gently descended and landed right on the shore of Lord Neji's lake. Diathotus officially settles his debt and, addressing Neji, says, I kept my promise. Neji thanks her for the help, and she flies off into the glow of the sunset. After waking the unconscious small enemies, everyone gathered near the wagons. Suddenly, dark elves Etna and Helio emerge from the bushes, shocked to see their lord has returned. They patiently awaited his return, but were a bit confused by the crowd he brought with him. Seeing the people, the elves immediately became alert and took a defensive stance. Nagi intervenes, vouches for them, and assures that these are good people and they will not hurt you. Team members begin to introduce themselves. Gand and Shauna step forward first. Almina and Felix also come forward and, with trembling voices, tell how Neji tore them from a dark fate. Neji asked the elves if everyone could live together by the lake. Etna smiles, agreeing that working together is the best way forward. He invites everyone to his place for tea to properly welcome them. Nagi thanks Etna for her warm reception and feels as if the gacha gods have finally blessed him with a good team. Yona immediately runs up to Helio to introduce herself. She even brings along her little brother Rudo so he can join the fun. Children quickly became friends, and there is such a sincere, homely, warm atmosphere that the heart melts. Even those in the group who looked the roughest find common ground with the locals. But Nagi notices monsters circling above them and realizes that such a large pack could attract the attention of other nearby dangers. He raises his hand above the water, directing his power into it. He raises a huge protective barriera impenetrable wall that will not let any threat that seeks to harm pass. As soon as the defense system activated, the elves joyfully announced a grand banquet to celebrate the return of their master. When the moon rises, the celebration erupts in full. Gnomes, elves, and humans all drink and laugh loudly together. The boy watches, satisfied with the community he built himself. Yona quietly approaches, looks at him closely, and asks if he has eaten enough. He tells her how happy he is that everyone has become such good friends. The children are already making plans to go fishing tomorrow, but Nagi sternly warns them not to go beyond the barrier. Yona looks at him with pure admiration and thanks him for working so hard for everyone. Nagi smiles slyly. Her gratitude is so strong that he feels it even through the sign of their contract. She gives him one last sweet smile and runs off to play with Helio. When he is left alone, fatigue finally hits him like a truck and he mumbles, "Maybe I overdid it a bit." He decides to step into the water to recharge his mana. He thinks he will just take a quick nap to regain strength. He slowly sinks into the depths, thinking he will only sleep a little. Suddenly he hears Yona's voice calling him through the water. He slowly opens his eyes and asks himself if it is already morning. He emerges from the water, greets Yona, and happily says what a joyful feast it was. But Yona is completely different. She reaches out her hand to him and her eyes are full of tears. Nagi is confused. She suddenly grew much taller than he remembers her. And then she drops a bombshell that simply shocks you. For 3 years already. Nagi is stunned. He just found out that he was gone for a whole 3 years. It turned out that the time jump hit hard while our boy was catching magical dreams. Yona barely holds back tears as she tells how he lived every day in anxiety, fearing that something terrible had happened. He thinks that Nagi simply exhausted himself to the bone, working for their sake. Nagi begins to piece everything together and realizes that fighting giant monsters and supporting that massive barrier on the lake simply drained all his mana. Finally, the waiting is over. Yona greets him with the warmest and most sincere greeting he has ever received. Our guy immediately notices Yona is no longer a child. He has grown up and significantly upgraded his stats. Yona tells him to keep his eyes closed because a huge surprise awaits you. When Nagi finally looks up, before him stands such an estate that his old family home looks like a shack of some garbage collectors. This is true boasting of peasants who wanted their savior to have his own home. Nagi hesitates a little because of this luxury, but still takes a step and enters his new base. Gnomes really did not spare any effort decorating the interior. Suddenly Nagi notices something much more important. On the pedestal sits an egg. He terribly regrets leaving this little one alone for 3 years. Touching it, he understood. The gacha gods were smiling under his fingers. A heart was truly beating. Yona explains that the whole village took turns speaking to the egg every day. When Nagi asked about monster attacks, Yona casually said that patrols were handled by Philly and Suiko. Suddenly, as if out of thin air, a familiar face appears. Suiko greets him, "Good morning, father," and looks more magnificent than ever. It turned out Suiko stayed to protect the people of the lake because Yona personally asked her. This is a huge lore drop. To summon and subjugate a high-ranking spirit like Suiko means that Yona's spirit magic has now reached its peak. Nagi shines with pride, seeing how much his student has matured in soul. Their quiet moment is suddenly interrupted by a huge commotion outside. The entire hall gathered to meet him, and it is complete chaos. Nagi awkwardly tries to apologize for the sudden disappearance, but the sly elf waved it off. "Don't worry about the little things. They have already arranged a huge banquet to celebrate his awakening." Turned out they were all lurking nearby just to surprise him. Nagi is crazy about the party and tells Yona to invite all the other children too. The celebration was in full swing. The whole town came out to the streets to see their lord. Etna says that the dark elves have officially settled and now help the fields yield abundantly. Nagi behaves like a true G. He says if everyone who lives here decides together, I have nothing to say against it. His kindness literally brings the dark elves to tears. They start serving fresh salads straight from the garden bed. They look incredible. They even advise Nagi to drop by the smithy and check out the new equipment they are forging there. Here comes Garud, the burly dwarf, finally appearing to greet Nagi. Nagi thanks him for the home, and Garud smiled and says the pleasure is all his. He admits that building houses for the community gave him a new, deep satisfaction. Not long ago, there was only a camp here. Today, it is a real town that commands respect. The next day, Nagi sets out for a walk to see with his own eyes how things are going. The city looks lively and calm as Yona leads him through the streets. They come across Almina, who is excited and eager to show her new shop. Now they have established a strong economy exchanging high-rank materials from monsters for goods from neighboring villages. Everyone's quality of life has actually been raised to the maximum. Finally, they visited the blacksmith to see Garud's latest masterpiece. The smithy looks like a real workshop professional and equipped with everything needed. Garud solemnly shows the blade he worked on, and Nagi instantly admires it. It is a neat, exquisitely decorated dagger that exudes quality. Garevri, with a face glowing with admiration, says that a vein of mithril was found underground and asks Nagi to bless it. After all, this ore was mined right in Naga's domain, so he can truly make a legendary item from it. Nagi directs his water magic, and the blade begins to glow with an ethereal light. Gnomes are simply stunned by this spectacle. The blessing worked flawlessly, and the blade transformed into a true spiritual sword. This is not just a rare item, it is now one of the 10 most powerful weapons in the entire world. Nagi allows Yoni to hold it, and the spiritual energy swirling around the child was simply insane. The aura is so heavy that the air seems to ripple from it. Yona is enchanted by her beauty, but this raw power is so strong that he is a bit dizzy. Suddenly someone bursts into the party, screaming in panic. It's Luna, and she looks completely shattered from stress. Outside, she drops a huge bomb. The dragon's envoy is standing just beyond the barrier. Nagi is left to guess what kind of powerful threat or message is now approaching him. Naj finds himself face to face with the envoy from the dragon village who is looking for him. The man introduced himself as Danif, confirmed that Nagi is the Great Spirit, and then delivered heavy news. He carries a heavy burden on his shoulders. He admits he has come to fulfill the last will of the Dark Dragon, Lord Diazadis. Our guy was completely stunned by the mention of the testament and felt that something tragic had happened while he was away. They decide to move somewhere more private to discuss the grim details of the dragon's death. It turned out that after Nagi saved Diazadis, the dragon quietly and carefully lived in the abyss of eternal darkness near the dragon tribe's village. He lived peacefully among the peasants, causing no trouble to anyone. But suddenly, the self-proclaimed envoy of the kingdom of Luginas arrived, called Diazodas an evil dragon, and began demanding that the peasants hand him over. The Dragonkin are not informers, so they resolutely refuse to obey the order to betray their friend. This forced the kingdom to return, and with a whole army, it raided the village. The Dragon Knights held their ground, did not surrender positions until the kingdom's heroes entered the battle, and everything changed. The balance of power was shaken, and the village turned to ruins. Seeing his friends fall one by one, Diazoda intervened, revealed his true power, and repelled the invaders. Even when the people retreated, the dragon knew they would just come back again and again, bringing more and more small monsters to sow suffering. He decided that the only way to protect the village was to go on a suicidal mission and wipe out the human forces from the face of the earth once and for all. He left Danif with one last request: if he did not return, take his child to Nagi so that she would be safe. With a heavy heart, he entrusted the future of his son Pelagius to the hands of the Great Spirit. In reality, the burden of the brutal battle still weighed heavily as Dana finished her story. Suddenly, something began to stir in the basket that Danif had brought with him. And suddenly, the cutest little dragon you have ever seen jumps out Prince Pelagius. The baby immediately became attached to Nagi, and without any hesitation jumped onto his lap. This is just a complete victory of cuteness. He gently rubs his muzzle against Naga's hand. Nagi asks about the remains of his father and learns that the peasants buried him decently. Looking at this innocent little dragon, Naga's heart melted, and he thanks him for staying loyal to his friend. He solemnly vows, "I will take the child under my wing and protect him." Danif returns home, begging Nagi to protect the prince at any cost. A week passes, and Nagi fully embraces the role of a father, promising to raise Pelagius as a legendary dragon. The baby is bursting with energy, constantly chirping and ready for action. Every day, Nagi takes him deep into the forest for live battles to harden and level him up. They are not alone lately. Some random slime has started following them. This tiny blob behaves like a whole squad of cleaners. It eats all the leftovers that Valacious leaves after hunting. Surprisingly intelligent, even tries to communicate with Nagi using gestures. Training is instantly interrupted. They notice a huge shadow lurking in the bushes. It's a hippogriff, and it clearly has a serious problem with its temperament. The beast jumped out from behind the trees and, screeching a wild battle cry, rushed at our guy. Pelagius does not hesitate, meets the monster in the air with a hard headbutt. The hippogriff has a nasty weakening skill. It lets out a piercing scream. The wave of sound hits Balaji's heart. He is stunned and barely holds himself in the air. Nagi understands that this scream paralysis for the young dragon. This is a complete nightmare. He believes that Pelagius's raw stats will pull him through this trial. Even the slime tries to cheer them on from the side as the tension rises. The hippogriff took advantage of the stun and slammed Pelagius to the ground, a powerful blow with a bone-cracking sound. The little dragon is crushed. He looks like he's about to be deleted any moment now. Just as Nagi is about to attract attention and end the bird's career, something in the air changes. Pelagius's eyes lit up with a terrible ancient light. Suddenly, a huge dark space expanded and engulfed the entire area in absolute shadows. Nagi feels unbearable pressure. This is the true terrible power of the dark dragon. The monster realizes it has tangled with the wrong player and begins to panic as darkness closes in. The darkness is so thick it seems to repel the very light, a creepy aura that would break any ordinary creature. When the shadows finally dissipated, only a few feathers remained from the hippogriff. Pelagius is gasping on the floor. He just completely cleared the lobby in one sweep. Nagi rushes to heal his tired little warrior after the stormy awakening. He is bursting with pride, giving the dragon a well-deserved pat on the head. As soon as Pelagius returns to the feast, Nagi feels two familiar figures approaching. Twins Neo and Luo suddenly appear out of nowhere. They explain that they were busy helping their master with magical research at the lake. Even before Nagi could comprehend their appearance, they instantly trapped him in a huge teleportation circle. He is simply kidnapped without any warning. He finds himself in a room with an old man who apologizes for his student's rudeness. The old man solemnly introduces the guest Muta Hiraki. The boy slyly smiled and dropped a shocking truth. He is another reincarnator from Japan, just like Nagi. Hiraki Mudu sits opposite our boy, and suddenly it turns out that he is also a reincarnator from Japan, like Nagi. Nagi breaks out in a cold sweat. He clearly remembers having heard this name before. They shook hands and the boy says to Nagi, "Just call me Harem." But this guy is sharp. He immediately understood that Nagi is not an ordinary person, but a powerful spirit. Harem decides to make a loud confession. Although he looks like a human, his true form is a legendary sacred dragon. Suddenly, little Bera just jumped out to greet them, and Harem immediately recognizes him as the child of the dark dragon Diazotis. Harem tells with a warm tone how reliable Diazotis was, but Nagi must cool this moment with heavy news. Naga's fist clenches. He is preparing to say the news that will be painful to hear. Diazotis, he died. Harem is completely stunned, cannot believe that such a top power could simply break down. Nagi says that a messenger from the Dragonkin village came personally to deliver the grim news. Hiromo sits down, looking completely shattered by the loss of his old friend. The old man joins the conversation and explains that the kingdom of Lagnus is starting to move strangely. They are about to unleash a full-scale war against the dragon village. To incite anger and justify the invasion, the kingdom covers itself with old incidents, such as the attack on the treasury. They blamed everything on the dark dragon just to have a reason to kill him. Nagi shows that this logic is complete nonsense because it was the humans who first stole the egg and used forbidden magic. The old man explains, the matter is not a simple misunderstanding, it is much more complicated. Forbidden magic is beyond human power, it is a reserve of otherworldly strength. This means that the entire kingdom can be a puppet in the hands of demons. These demons are the most malicious griefers who rebelled against the gods and possess sinister dark powers. They hide in the shadows, sneak up on other races, and secretly drain their strength to become stronger. Harama burns with rage and declares that people must be shown true horror when they make an enemy out of a dragon. Nagi will not sit idly by and watch the village be wiped off the map. Harem agrees, recalling the promise to give his power if everything goes awry. Nagi is ready to help, but he is tormented by the thought that collateral damage will affect innocents caught in the crossfire. The old man nodded. Corrupt officials are our target, but harming ordinary people is forbidden. He officially gives them the main quest of this arc. Set out for the Dragon Tribe's village and stand in its defense against the approaching army of the Kingdom of Ludginess. Nagi immediately takes on the mission, and the old man vows to return to the capital and unravel the traces of demonic influence. Harem looks at Nagi with respect and a sense of guilt. He sincerely apologizes. He allowed anger to take over and dragged an innocent person into this mess. He is sincerely grateful that Nagi will back him up in the future battle. But Nagi only smiles and says that from the moment he met Diazotas and sheltered Barages, he has never stayed aside. He wants to protect the child's homeland and fulfill the will of the dragon who saved him. Harem grinned. Nagi turned out to be a truly open guy, as their mutual friend Yuuki said. He said it's time to move, and the air began to shimmer with immense energy. Huge white wings spread out, catching the light and preparing for takeoff. Harem reveals his true form, a majestic white dragon that looks like a real boss. Nagi jumped on his back to travel without lags, and Baragius flies alongside them. They are like a legendary team, rushing straight into the high-level zone. Before leaving forever, Nagi gathers the elves and directly explains why he must go to the dragon village. He wants to make sure that this town is not drawn into the conflict while he is away. Little Yona steps forward and begs Nagi to take her with him this time. She has been leveling up her stats for a long time and says that she can finally fight with the spirit sword. Nagi gently strokes her head, acknowledging that she has grown stronger both in body and spirit. And instead of taking her to the battlefield, he asks her to become the last defender of the city while he is away. Yona accepts the mission with a determined look and vows to protect everyone until Nagi returns. Once back in the air, Nagi told Borgias that he wanted to keep Yona away from the fight for her safety. Baragius is so cute, he gently rubs his nose against Nagi while they fly through the clouds. Nagi admits that he hesitated for a long time about whether to take that little one with him at all. But since his father rested here, he wanted to respect the children's feelings and at the same time get him to promise not to fight. Suddenly, the dragon's eyes sharpened. He noticed something on the horizon. Finally, through the mist, our destination appears. Dragon Village, a huge, amazingly beautiful settlement that grew among floating mountains and roaring waterfalls. Our guy finally stepped into the very heart of the storm to protect the innocent from the flames of war. Elder Rojas rode up to greet the squad in the village. He wonders if our guy Nagi is really a great water spirit, alongside the legendary sacred dragon Takamuto and the dark dragon Baragius. Nagi nods to him friendly, and little Baragius just makes a cute chirp. Rip. Rojas clearly sighed with relief. He was sweating because of the approaching war. He explains that reconnaissance confirmed the enemy army will be here in just a few days. Before the raid begins, Nagi wants to take the little one to the resting place of Diazatis. Rojas agrees to lead them to the dragon mausoleum, which towers on a huge floating stone boulder. When they approach the monument, Nagi freezes and silently looks at the statue of the fallen dragon. Looking at the ancient inscription on the stone, he finally realizes how serious it is. I brush off comments about how peaceful it is here in such a chaotic world. This is a rarity. Everything changes instantly when Borgias realizes where they are. The poor little dragon starts sobbing right on the stone, and it breaks anyone's heart. Nagi kneels down, touches the cold stone, and whispers, "I really wanted to meet you again alive." He vows to protect the village and preserve the dragon's legacy. Suddenly, a dim ghostly figure materializes nearby to give thanks. Nagi freezes in complete astonishment. He looks back at the empty statue and suddenly feels how much is at stake in this upcoming defensive mission. Since they are already nearby, Hiramu again suggests they take a look at the Twilight Sanctuary where the dragon once lived. They find a huge crater in the ground, as if a nuclear bomb really exploded here. The group cautiously makes their way along the edge of the pit, searching for the entrance to a hidden cave. As they rush into the darkness, Nagi senses something is definitely wrong here. He freezes in place, feeling a mysterious aura emanating from the shadows. Ahead in the tunnel, a piercing, deep cold blows. Despite the red flags, Nagi decides to take on the aggro and goes inside himself. From the abyss, two shining empty eyes look out as if asking what he wants. A dark-haired boy comes out as if he hasn't slept for a whole decade, and Nagi calls himself the Spirit of Water. This is Formus, the great spirit of darkness, and he is by no means pleased that guests have appeared in his domain. Nad says that he just came to pay respects to an old acquaintance who recently died. Formus seems completely indifferent to this sentimentality and simply looks at Nagi with an empty, emotionless gaze. He threw out a mysterious phrase. Nagi doesn't look like a spirit at all. He interacts with people too often. Before Nagi can ask for more stories, Formus whispers that he will remember him and instantly disappears into the air. The air, Hiramu was simply blown off his feet. Nagi just casually talked with the spirit of darkness. The next few days they spend in a short rest with the dragon folk. It turns out these are the most soulful NPCs one could imagine. Nagi sees how peacefully they live and realizes he will not allow any trash monsters to destroy this village. He sits alone, hardening his resolve to protect these people, no matter what happens. The calm does not last long. Hiramu is suddenly informed that the enemy army is finally approaching. Hiramu becomes serious and directly asks Nagi if he is really ready to enter battle against other humans. Our guy confesses, although he has fought before, he has never truly taken another person's life. He knows he must gather his willpower. This is a decisive battle for the survival of everything dear to him. Finally, Hiramu admits that his human consciousness is fading quickly, and honestly, it scares him. He tells Nagi that speaking with him in the Yuki language is the only thing that reminds him that he once was human. They agree to quickly end this conflict. Just then a messenger runs in. The army of the Kingdom of Luganis has finally arrived, and they are not joking. The sky is clear, but the air is heavy with the smell of blood. Standing on the edge of the cliff, they look down on the plain. A huge detachment of 20,000 soldiers has set up camp. In contrast, the dragon-like beings have only 200 elite knights and about 3,000 regular warriors. Dragon knights are sturdy units, each worth 200 men, but the enemy has heroic-class warriors who can handle them alone. Nagi narrowed his eyes. Among the enemies, he felt 5 sharp, incredibly powerful presences. Suddenly the earth shook, and a huge magical circle shone in the sky. The enemy does not hesitate, launching a high-level summoning ritual that looks like a real nightmare. From the swirling energy, a colossal creature slowly emerges. It is a giant armored golem that covers the entire forest and emits such a terrible aura that ordinary soldiers are forced to freeze in fear. Nagi admits that the enemy summoners are actually quite skilled to pull off such a move. Titan releases a huge beam of energy right where our guy is standing. Nagi did not even flinch. He stepped forward and with one hand deflected the entire explosion. He tells Harem to take action, and his comrade does not waste a second. He rushes forward, partially transforming into a dragon. Harem's strike is so powerful that with one blow he completely breaks the enemy's assault. Nagi smiles crookedly, thinking he has gained the advantage, but his spider sense suddenly trembled. In the blink of an eye, a deadly blade flew through the air, and Nagi collapsed even before the dragon could shout his name. Between Dragon Village and the Kingdom of Luginas, a war broke out, and everything immediately went awry when the assassin tried to kill our Nagi. Nagi is not just some minor enemy caught off guard. He himself became the bait, lured the assassin into the light, trapped him in a water trap, and caught him before the first deadly strike. The allies are completely stunned that he is unharmed, but Nagi is already thinking 3 steps ahead. He suddenly realized before him is not just a random bandit, but a person with the skills of a true hero. He hands the prisoner over to his guards, let them keep the villain under close watch. After securing the home base, he boldly rushes straight into the enemy camp to look for Haramo. Meanwhile, Haramo is completely clearing the foyer of these so-called heroes. He delivers a powerful blow. The opponents immediately receive a clear message. One of the heroes, a burly bearded man, is simply boiling with rage and calls him a creature resembling a gecko. Haramo just snorted and addressed the opponents. Is that all to corner a hero? The third heroine tries to sneak up and strike from the flank, confident she has found a weak spot. She screams that he is full of vulnerable spots, but is about to find out that Hiramu has no delay at all. He easily slips through their coordinated attacks like a pro gamer on a Smurf account. He grabs a huge axe with his bare hands, proving that the power gap is simply too great. With a single lightning-fast kick, he sends the knightess flying and keeps the bearded man at a distance. Watching from the side, Nagi suddenly realizes Hiramu can easily take down all 3 heroes without even breaking a sweat. While Hiramu holds the front line, Nagi feels that something sinister is lurking nearby. He follows the trail of devastation left by Hiramu's previous fiery breath. He followed it to a secluded tent and sensed someone human is hiding inside. Inside, we see a hooded sorceress who is completely out of sorts as she tries to loot treasure chests. She is panicked. Nagi had earlier killed her summoned demon with one strike, and that was definitely not in her plans. Nagi casually enters and begins preparing his water magic. He traps her in a shimmering water barrier and offers her a chance to surrender without violence. The summoner is sure that he is bluffing and will not let himself be deceived. She sharply pulls out her magic book and summons a burly minotaur to crush Nagi. Our guy didn't even flinch. Guided by water, he cuts through the beast's onslaught. He completely paralyzes the minotaur in a block of enchanted water, leaving the summoner in a cold sweat. In despair, she summons the next creature, a huge fish-like monster named Bukvana. This creature is like a nightmare from the depths of the sea, looming over Nagi. It raises a giant whirlpool, trying to engulf Nagi entirely. The summoner thinks she has finally dealt a deadly blow. Nagi stands right before its giant toothy maw, with not a trace of fear in his eyes. He calmly but confidently reminds her that the water is for him and completely takes control of the monster's element. A colossal explosion of water bursts into the air, shattering the summoned creature and at the same moment breaking the summoner's confidence. The explosion throws the girl into the air, and she realizes that she is completely outmatched. Nagi looks her in the eyes and coldly says that choosing him as an opponent was a bad idea. She looks at him as if she sees God himself and cannot understand why her highest level magic simply does not work. In a last desperate attempt, she burns her last mana to summon Heavy Artillery Hydra and Hekaton Chair. Huge magical circles fill the air as she calls forth ancient horrors. These multi-headed monsters appear, radiating such a terrible aura that any ordinary soldier would faint. She even summons a colossus, a massive creature resembling an elephant-like tank. She shouts to her monsters to kill that guy, and they immediately launch a joint attack. The huge trunk crashes down with a roar right onto Nagi, threatening to level the entire area. The battle reached a furious peak, and the three heroes realize that this true monster completely outmatches them. The villain only smiles at their pathetic struggle, mocks the very idea of a hero, and prepares to end the raid. Razor tries to make a desperate move, but she is utterly crushed in one brutal exchange. Seeing their comrade so thoroughly defeated completely kills the mood of the remaining knights. They swear that her death will not be in vain, squeezing out mana to the last drop for one final desperate combo. They unleash their most powerful moves, Chronostamicals and Hazan Tenjeki, hoping to break through the villain's insane defense. As a result, a colossal explosion occurred, illuminating the entire battlefield and having the power to clear an entire hall. For a moment, the knights truly believed that victory was already theirs. This hope is immediately erased when a destructive counterbeam tears through the smoke. The thief emerges from the dust almost unharmed, with only a few scratches, and declares that it is all over while the heroes lie broken on the ground. Harem stands aside and watches, hesitating whether he will have to pick up our guy Nagi. The main hero is deeply immersed in a fight with a literal nightmare, a monster with many arms. Nagi tries to keep his distance, maneuvering through a barrage of heavy blows from a crowd of small enemies. He tries to drown the beast with a huge stream of water magic. It seems like a strong move, but the scale of the monster is just too massive. Suddenly, the beast widely opens its jaws, and Nagi realizes that he has just walked right into a trap. The monster does not just take the hit, it absorbs water to power its attack. Nagi realizes that he is literally drenched in sweat while the beast prepares to shoot back. The Hydra's heads connect, spraying a deadly dose of its poison everywhere. Nagi barely manages to cover himself, but the poison is already starting to corrode his shield. He is completely surrounded by high-level enemies, and his usual gear won't help here. He knows there is no window for a normal attack against 3 bosses at once. His usual fighting style is completely unsuitable here. Driven to the edge, he dives deep into his mental library, searching for the forbidden sheet code. Right in the heart of the forbidden archive, he stumbles upon a colossal tome bound by heavy chains. He feels an incredible power radiating from the book, but it is sealed, and the reason for this is very dark. Even knowing it is forbidden, Nagi is forced to admit he has no choice if he wants to survive. He reaches out, his fingers tremble as he prepares to break the seal. To break free from this situation, he is ready to pay any price demanded by the gods of Gacha. The deafening crack, the chains break, and a dazzling light engulfs his sight. He opens his eyes, and in them has already settled the cold gaze of a true monster hunter. The demon girl, watching from the shadows, is completely stunned by the sudden change in mana. Nagi begins chanting a forbidden spirit spell, and the very air starts to vibrate with pure deadly intent. 3 monsters rushed inside, having no idea that the game was already lost for them. Nagi's eyes lock onto targets, seeing through their defenses. He calmly stands in the eye of the storm, and his mana begins to rewrite the very laws of physics. He whispers the name of the technique Mist Annihilation Realm. At that very moment, the huge monsters simply vanished from existence, scattering into tiny particles. The demon girl only trembles, not understanding what just happened after witnessing such terrible power. The monsters do not even leave a drop of prey, they simply dissolve like a glitch in the Matrix. Naga's body finally gave in, he collapsed, and his strength began to fade. Suddenly he realizes that he overdid it with power, and the backlash hits him like a truck. He contemplates the miss in the sphere of destruction, a technique that turns the target into mist and erases it completely. Even when blood flows from his eye, Nagi manages to hold back the residual mist with a water barrier so that he does not perish. He looked at the demon girl, she finally regained consciousness. Harem explains that another prisoner committed suicide before they could squeeze any information out of him. Nagi wakes up and sees Harem standing over their new prey. It was the hero who summoned the fire giant, but she is definitely not human. Nagi points to her horns and the powerful magical aura that proves she is a demon. Harem is confident that she is exactly the demon they were warned about. Ramu is not joking and asks, "Shall we kill her here?" The girl chokes on the magical seal, desperately trying to utter even a word. Finally, she manages to scream, "I am a demon. I will tell you everything I know, please, I beg you." But just as she was about to reveal the whole truth, the curse of silence struck. She began coughing up blood. Nagi realizes that those who want to destroy her are like her, and rushes forward to intervene. The girl stands on the brink of a permanent game over the poison is already taking over. Nagi stabilizes her with his magic at the last moment, although Harem considers him too soft. Nagi just smiled and told his brother that lies don't work on me, and he knew she was sincere. But he adds if she turns out to be a threat, he will deal with her personally. Suddenly they understood, demons cast the curse of silence to protect their secrets from humans. Returning to the village, Nagi finally enjoys a well-deserved rest. He is greeted by Barajas' loyal pet, wildly happy to see his master alive and unharmed. Nagi gently strokes the little one's head, finally relaxing after the exhausting ordeal. The war against the kingdom of Luginas ended swiftly, a complete victory in just 5 hours. Nagi cannot get rid of the thought of how ruthless and terrible demons are when they get rid of their people. He knows the war against the demons is far from over. For now, he will simply enjoy the peace he fought so hard to protect. Several weeks have passed since the war against Luginas ended. Our guy Nagi is now recovering and peacefully resting in the village while the elders await a response from the sage. Meanwhile, the demon girl they caught since waking up behaves like a real sweet bun. It's actually a bit shocking to see how the former threat is so sincere and cute, playing with her caretaker. Turns out she has completely forgotten everything that happened after 8 years. The sage believes that this regression in consciousness is a nasty side effect of the silence spell, which had a reverse effect. Even after erasing her memory, she still attracts attention, so they are preparing a meeting to decide what to do next with the kingdom. Nagi assures that everything is fine, although mana still drips from his hands like a leaking faucet. When he finally meets Agatsuma, that girl, Mashras literally broke out in sweat just from being in the same room with him. She clung to Sina, her guardian, because it seems only Sina can calm her down. The sage dropped a shocking bombshell. Mashras turns out not to be a pureblood demon. She is a half-blood who is forced to learn the highest level summoning magic, and it terribly exhausts her soul. Nagi's healing truly saved her life, but her mind regressed to a childlike state to survive after the trauma of erasing her true self. She is not pretending, she is literally scared because she feels Naga's oppressive presence and perceives it as a demon's aura. Goosebumps run down the skin when you realize that the demons just used her as a disposable battery for their monsters. Agatsuma explains that after the war in Luginas, everything looked very suspicious. When he went to check, the guards immediately tried to restrain him. Suddenly he realized the entire army was zombified by treacherous demons. Without wasting time, the sage slammed his staff on the ground and cast the debrainwashing spell over the entire kingdom. The scale of his mana is frightening. With one flash of light, she cleanses the whole city. Unfortunately, when he finally got out of the hall, the demon's plan had already been carried out. The situation looks grim. Many spirit mages and slaves have already been captured. Agatsuma is certain demons are plotting something that will destroy the world, using all those kidnapped mages. Even the Dragon King is about to intervene in the battle. During the chaos, one of his relatives was killed. The Nagi were given a task to appeal to the great spirits to prepare for the approaching storm. The problem is that most of the majestic spirits are neutral. They are completely indifferent to human dramas. Nagi knows if they want to survive, he absolutely cannot relax. Before leaving, Nagi hands over a magical tome that they took from the demoness. When the sages looked into the forbidden spells inside, they froze in shock. The level of monsters that Mashras was forced to summon was simply staggering. He decided that the best thing for her was to stay in the temple and expel those remnants of evil magic. He reaches out his hand to comfort her. "You have been through so much pain, but now you can rest peacefully," he says quietly. A rare poignant moment, Mashras finally lets his tears flow. The sage jokes that he has had to deal with much more unruly students. When everything was settled, Nagi heads back to his base at the lake. After a long journey through the clouds, finally he finds himself on the outskirts of the village. He is shocked the town has grown incredibly while he was away. Yona and Ruto immediately notice him and rush to meet him again. They joyfully throw themselves at him with a greeting that would melt any heart. It is clearly visible since he left, the village has been steadily improving. The population has not only grown, new races are coming to join the squad. Nagi notices a huge scaly tail sliding through the grass. A group from the Lamia tribe steps forward to offer their services to the Lord of the Lake. Like the Dark Elves, they were long persecuted, and now they seek protection. Nagi, the true best of all time, greets them with open arms. The leader of the Lamia clearly sighed with relief, finally a place where they won't be hunted. Nagi just wants everyone to finally live happily after all the trash they had to deal with. But that's not all. A group of burly dwarves also moved to the city. They officially asked to become residents of the growing community. As a sign of goodwill, they offer Nagi a gift wrapped in cloth. It is a masterpiece sword, carved with insane precision and care. Rudo's eyes literally sparkled as she looked at the blade. Nagi lets the child hold it, then decides to simply give it to him to encourage him. He will keep it with him to keep it safe until Rudo really learns to wield the sword. The city is growing so much that Nagi feels the need to expand the barrier magic. He orders the guys to find Philly and the rest of the key team and summon them to a meeting at his mansion. As soon as everyone gathers in his huge living room, Nagi suddenly throws a heavy request on their shoulders. "I want you to meet with the Elf King as my envoy," he tells them. They need the help of the elves to break the demons' insidious plans regarding the spirits. Billy and the team are ready to give their all. Fail looks unusually serious and decides to act alone for a short time. Naji feels that something is wrong but still trusts his comrade. The next day, as the group was preparing to set out, Nagi stopped them. He pulls out a huge spirit stone that glows brightly with pure energy. He explains that they need such a high-grade item so that the Elf King will finally take them seriously as spirit envoys. The mission officially began, and Nagi watches them go, feeling that the stakes have never been higher. Billy and his team finally returned from a 2-month adventure in the Elven Kingdom. They returned, but not alone. With them came an incredibly formal escort, which makes everyone around a bit tense. Ahead walks Vilrian Lanuja Finralt, the heir to the kingdom's throne himself, and Nagi is clearly in panic. He expected Philly to be just a messenger, not to drag back the crown heir. He realizes too late that Lunisha literally means heir to the throne in Elvish. Nagi is puzzled about how everything escalated so quickly. Philly explains that as soon as they arrived, the royal guards practically escorted them straight to the palace because through their spirit stones they sensed a huge presence of Nagi. Spending so much time near a powerful spirit, the group completely stopped noticing how truly important our guy is. Nagi admits that it slipped his mind and suddenly realizes now he must be more careful because he is already attracting the wrath of great world powers. The prince kneels on one knee and hands over a letter from King Lucian himself. Although everything is formal, Nagi feels the king's sincere desire to establish warm relations. He felt relief finally. A close connection can arise between the two territories. The prince wants cooperation without any delays and wants to hear what Nagi will say. Nagi does not hold back. He pours out everything about the kingdom of Leginus and the dark dragon Diazotis. He even reveals the truth: demons control everything from the shadows. When the prince hears about demons and the disappearance of spirit mages, it looks as if he is burdened with heavy debuffs. Nagi wants the elves to become a bridge for communication with other great spirits so that she is one step ahead. In return, the prince asks for a huge favor to help with the illness of the former king. Nagi smiled slyly and handed over some special water, explaining that it was the very liquid that lifted the curse from the true dark dragon. The prince was simply stunned. He realized that this was the cure for the legendary forbidden curse. As soon as the elves clear the foyer, a new group of guests arrives at the door. This time it is beastmen, and they do not waste time. They immediately address Nagi as the great spirit of water. Baylor Fail also returned and even brought along burly guards like Sharak. They came from the Federation of Beastmen to talk about the pact and strengthen the ties. Nagi is still trying to comprehend the sudden influx of guests when one of the beasts suddenly begins to change. A cloud of smoke disperses and we see the truth. It turned out that this guy is Prince Farian, the third prince of Judarsu, who ran away from home and wanders with the group. They moved the conversation to the mansion to finally get down to business. Farian explains that he has already told his father about Naga's power. His servant is also fully convinced of Naga's divinity because of the crazy barrier protecting the lake. Nagi is simply glad that they are on the same wavelength. They immediately dived into a pile of papers to finalize the alliance. Everything is clear. Nagi is a military unit by himself and no one will ask him for reinforcements. Nagi definitely includes a clause: he will not help if Judars becomes the aggressor in the war. They agree to protect each other's citizens and keep trade honest and moderate. This is a rock-solid agreement without any loopholes. Both sides are delighted and eagerly want to finally start working together. They seal the agreement with a handshake hand, thus firmly establish a major shift in the regional balance of power. Nagi is already planning his next move to the village of Dragonkin, but the team worries that he is taking too much risk. He wants to propose an alliance against the demons and fix their trade relations. Children swear to stand guard at the lake while Nagi is absent. Nagi insists on leaving. He has a person he must meet in person. He finally meets again with the Dragon King's squad alongside Yona and Alman. When the introductions ended, something unexpected happened. It turned out that Yona is Naga's contractor. Next, they were going to set out for the forbidden sanctuary of eternal darkness. Before they leave, Nagi calls Formus. He wants to talk alone. Ormus looked as if he had seen a ghost and whispered to Nagi, "Stay alert. You dropped a bombshell, you have abused your power." So since Nagi is a newly born being, his existence is fragile, and he can literally disappear if he continues to behave this way. Nagi sweated with fear. He is afraid that if he falls asleep, he will not be able to cope with the demons. Ormus explains that his soul is linked to the contractor, so when the world truly needs him, they will wake him up. He tells Nagi that it's time to trust his brothers and get a good sleep. Finally, Nagi realizes that he cannot carry the entire server on his shoulders. He looks at the sleeping children and suddenly understands that all this time he was trying to do everything by himself. He is lost in thoughts about his duty as a powerful being, but Yona suddenly finds him cheerful. Yona worries and tells him, "Rest before you break." As soon as Nagi tries to speak, his body right before her starts to melt and turn into water. His hands literally dissolve before her eyes as soon as the mana drops to 0. Yona sees that he is completely exhausted and begs him to lie down and sleep. Nagi is stubborn. He says he must protect them, but Yona does not agree. At that moment, she tells him that by allowing them to help, he is actually making the city stronger. She reminds him of all the times he saved them and says that now it is their turn to repay him. He squeezes his hands and pleads, "Do not corner yourself." He begs him, "Rely on us more." Looking at her determined face, Nagi understands she is right. Finally, he agrees, allowing himself to rest a little. Well, Nagi returns to the lake earlier than everyone expected, leaving the trading affairs to Almini. Elio cries to tears but vows to become stronger to finally be useful. Nagi asks Yona, "Protect everyone while I am gone." He promises someday he will definitely return to them. Likewise, everyone gathers around, praying for his recovery as the Great Spirit begins to fade. Nagi throws them one last glance before completely disappearing. Water sparkles as he merges with the lake again. Yona tries to hold back tears as the boss logs out of the system. "Good night, Lord Negi, until the day we meet again." And then one drop hits the surface, a sign that the long-awaited moment has finally come. Yona instantly senses a change in the air, his instincts screaming that something huge is about to happen. With a barely audible whisper, he realizes the truth. Lord Nagi has awakened. He doesn't waste a second, rushing to the very source of that stunning power. The water begins to swirl and rise. The return of their leader explodes in a literal tidal wave of energy. Nagi emerges as if he hasn't aged at all and greets Yona with a calm smile. It's clear that our guy has finally returned to the game. Even the dragon Belgius cannot contain his excitement and behaves like a puppy as soon as Nagi extends his hand to him. 5 long years have passed, and while Nagi was forced AFK, the world did not stand still. The legendary Agatsuma appears to report on the state of the kingdom. When they return to the manor, Nad is frozen with amazement. Skyscrapers pierce the clouds, and the place looks more like a modern city than a fantasy village. It turned out that the gnomes took Nagi's casually thrown remark about dense construction literally and, using their craftsmanship, built real concrete jungles. The city has turned into a bustling trade hub with teleportation circles and underground passages, but as soon as the word demons is mentioned, Nagi instantly focuses. For 3 years now, demons have been playing mad scientists, turning monsters into real nightmares to terrorize the continent. These are not just ordinary mobs. They nearly wiped entire tribes of beastmen and Dracolites off the face of the earth. Yona explains that this city was also under siege, and he took on the role of top DPS and stood to defend their home. However, he was not alone. The water spirit Suiko held an impenetrable barrier to protect the civilian. Nagi sincerely prides himself on how much they have grown, but Suiko says that after the last battle, something sinister remained behind. She extends a jagged obsidian-colored gem, obtained from one of the defeated monsters. Nagi takes the stone and his face darkens as he feels corruption radiating from it. This is not just a random find, it has the same cursed aura as the forbidden child, Diazotis. When Nagi looks closely at it, the stone suddenly starts bleeding dark red and reveals its true nature, a corrupted crystal of a fire spirit. The room grew cold when Suiko explained, "These crystals are the hearts of spirits," meaning demons literally cut out spirits to fuel their war machine. It seems it was only a minor fire spirit that never had a chance. Naga's hands tremble as he clenches the crystal, and his calm finally shatters into pure, unrestrained rage. "They attacked my village, harmed the spirits, desecrated them. I will never forgive them," he declares, his eyes burning with cold fury. His murderous intent is so heavy that the children seem about to faint from the pressure. Seeing the tension, Agasuma clapped his hands to dispel the spell and suggested ending for today so that Nagi could restore his mana. Nagi yields, but the fire still burns in his eyes. Later that night, Nagi thanks the old man for handling the situation before he lost control. Agatsuma is straightforward and immediately asks Nagi to present the spirits at the upcoming Union Council. This is a huge alliance. The most powerful forces of the clans of humans, elves, dwarves, and dragons have gathered here. Nagi hesitates. He feels that he is too uninformed to lead the other great spirits. But Agatsuma loudly announces that the spirits of darkness, lava, desert, and thunder have already pledged their blades to this cause. They have openly made it clear they support this alliance only because Nagi stands at the head. When Nagi hears that the meeting is in 5 days, he almost loses his mind from being informed at the last minute. Agatsuma insists that there is no time for a training arc and Nagi must be present. We fast forward 5 days and a huge teleportation circle suddenly flares up. They arrive in the very heart of the Anashia Empire, a country that seems to have maxed out all branches of magical technical research. This is the last bastion, so only here can the World Summit take place. They enter the council hall where the air is so thick it could suffocate a dragon. Again, all the leading world leaders are here, and they all look like they are sweating bullets. Nagi notices a familiar face in Harem, the right hand of the Dragon King, who looks like he hasn't slept for a whole week. Harem admits that he is stuck in an unrelenting, exhausting cycle, fighting every day to keep the vengeful dragons from breaking free of control. Agatsuma stands up and loudly reminds everyone the demon threat is no longer something that can wait. It is a problem today. He lowered his hammer and directly told the kings, if you don't drop solo turns and start playing as a team, it's the end for you. Dwarf King Venava raised the question that troubled everyone: what does the real solution to this problem look like? Agatsuma clenches his fist and says that his prediction shows in 3 years a full-scale war will begin, and victory for them is the only option. The entire hall instantly froze from a wave of pure horror. Everyone remembers the legends of ancient wars. Even with the support of the gods, the Alliance could not see it through to the end. But that war left the world in ruins, and the demons were never completely exterminated. Agatsuma asks them not to despair, but the historical trauma painfully strikes each one. Nagi quietly listens, absorbing every word as they tell how the previous hero managed to overthrow the Demon King. Kings try to cope, insisting that demons should not be as strong as in the Golden Age. They look at Nagi and Harem and realize that dragons and mighty spirits on their side give them a chance in battle. The mood changes instantly, and the room erupts in applause. They convince themselves that they really can win. But in the midst of the celebration, one man stood in the crowd with a very suspicious smile. Nagi instantly felt his vibe, and before anyone could blink, he surrounded that guy with a water prison. The hall froze. The man writhes, struggling against the tightening pressure of spirit magic. Other nobles think that Nagi has lost his mind and demand to know why he is attacking a person. But Nagi did not flinch. It turned out he sensed a powerful malice that no human could ever have. As he speaks, his skin begins to melt like cheap plastic, and beneath it emerges a terrible, scarred face of a demon spy hiding among them. The interrogation begins with an icy demand for the truth. First, what is your name? This demon spy sweats bullets when the crystal blade barely touches his cheek. He pretends to be silent, but in this room only top players, and they have no time for games. The old man warns if you choose silence, and says this even before activating the high-level torture spell. Lightning twisted the demon, and he let out a scream that would make a bunch of small enemies tremble. Nagi Arboy is forced to use his healing magic so that the spy's health bar does not fall to 0, thereby condemning him to eternal torment. Yes, I will talk, just stop. The spy screams, revealing that he is Junus, an agent of the demon army. He was sent to find out what is happening at the Alliance meeting. His real mission was to scout the great spirits and dragons. Nagi leans forward, radiating a frightening aura, and asks, what are you going to do with the kidnapped spirit mages? He demands from the spy, tell me everything you know. The depressing truth, they brainwash the mages and sacrifice spirits to fuel the dark ritual. For the resurrection of the Demon King, Junus howled so that his face turned into a demonic nightmare. He begins to laugh ominously, his body swells and bursts, and he mocks that they will all be slaughtered. Nagi does not hesitate for a moment, instantly deploys a barrier to contain the massive explosion. It turned out the demon did not just commit suicide, another demon remotely detonated him to silence him. Minor characters completely panicked. They are horrified at the thought that they cannot defeat the legendary boss. The old man suppresses the panic and quietly notes that the Demon King has not yet returned. They need to gather and build strength while the enemy is not yet ready. We will choose a hero, says the old man, looking as if ready to lead the world's first raid. Council decides that the Holy Church of our niece will conduct the ritual, and the meeting finally ends. Several weeks pass and the whole world is tensely preparing for the approaching storm. A messenger named Donan arrives at the manor, carrying news that will change lives. He says that through the divine oracle, 5 heroes have been chosen. A child with a spirit sword in hand. He looks directly at our boy's companion and says that the boy is none other than Lord Yona. As if an oracle indisputable, and these chosen heroes are illuminated by the sacred blessing and seal of the gods. Yona unbuttoned his shirt, a sign of the water deity shown on his chest. The church wants to take Yona away and send him to the great cathedral to quickly and seriously raise his power. Naji understands what this means. His contract partner is being taken away, and he froze in silence. Nagi, although not thrilled about the situation, sees determination burning in Yona's eyes. I will become a hero of water, he said, to protect everyone dear to him. After 3 days it was time to depart, and Yona said farewell words. Townspeople have mixed feelings. They know the church is involved but still sincerely rejoice for Yona. The little girl clings to him and sobs, telling how incredible her older brother is. Everyone encourages him, shouting loudly for him to give all his strength. Helios stands behind, looking completely broken. Yona notices a friend and freezes, does not know what to say. Now there is a huge social gap between the chosen hero and everyone else. Nagu watches the drama, feeling the tension in the air. When the sun sets, Nagi admits to himself that without his friend it will be sad and lonely. He notices Yona sneaking out of the house in the middle of the night. Our guy decides to follow him in the form of a spirit to see what is going on. Yona meets Helio in the middle of a deep forest. Helio behaves coldly and asks, "What business does the hero of the Holy Church have with me?" He is clearly suffering and tells Yona that he does not want to hear any excuses. Helio sincerely admits he is glad that Yona has worked so hard for 8 years. And then he explodes, shouting, "Why did you have to take the side of the Holy Church?" Nagi understands Helio is right. The history of this place is too dark. Dark elves were originally ordinary elves. Demons kidnapped them and through vile experiments turned them into a new race. Instead, the church did not help. It called them heretics and began to persecute them harshly. Helio remembers how they were persecuted and driven out of every community until they found Lake Nagi. Helio does not believe that Yona sides with the very people who brought so much pain to his people. Yona did not just sell out, he had a reason to go under their wing. "I have a different goal," he says to his friend. He looks Helio straight in the eyes and reveals his plan to get the Pope to retract the accusations that called the Dark Elves heretics. He knows when a hero asks he is truly heard, but the request of a half-elf gets lost. From the very first step, this was his plan. Yona wants to change reality for the sake of the Dark Elves, whom he loves so much. He dreams of becoming just like Lord Nagi and saving people who are unjustly wronged. Helio, with eyes full of tears, apologizes for having behaved so coldly with his friend and sincerely vows that until Yona returns, he will protect the city and Nagi with everything he has. He will become stronger, he vows through tears. He tells Yona it is better for him to return whole and unharmed. He sealed the promise with a strong brafist. Nagi watches from the shadows and proudly sees how his guys cleanse the foyer of their own doubts. Finally, the day has come when Yona had to leave Lakeside Town and set off on his next quest. His family feels the full weight of this moment and gently reminds him that he always has a home to return to. Yona does not set off alone. Suiko walks beside him to support him, and he vows to return a true and worthy hero. It turns out Suiko is not the only one who took up the cause. Another spirit was born, also named Suiko, to guard the town. Before the team sets off, Nagi hands Yona a mysterious gift. It is a brand new spirit sword made exactly to Yona's size because his old equipment was already starting to look like a weapon for beginners. Nagi wants him to take one of these things in each hand to get the most out of training. So that they do not lose connection across the entire map, Nagi reminds him that the contract seal allows Yona to call for help whenever the situation escalates. This is a crazy reinforcement because, as Nagi says, my strength is also Yona's strength. Donan steps forward to protect Yona while they prepare to set off. Outside, suddenly Helio flies in, running, all sweaty because he has been praying for their safety all this time. Seeing Yona set off to save the world, Helio and Rudo seem to ignite with determination. They wave goodbye and Helio suddenly realizes he is tired of being a secondary character. He tells Nagi directly, "I want to become stronger." He strives to protect his squad just like Yona. Helio immediately dives into his training phase, pouring every drop of sweat to master his spear. He works every day without stopping, smashing targets to raise his DPS. Rudo keeps up in everything, diving deep into spirit magic so they both can push each other to the limit. They have set their sights on the prize, and Rudo even boldly says that he will one day defeat his older brother. It didn't last long because Agatsuma arrived completely broken and begged Nagi for help. He brought legendary news: an ancient monster that was once sealed has broken free. The demons officially resurrected Cerberus, the legendary three-headed hellhound. The children are in panic. They thought this monster was just a myth. This is not some minor mob, it is a world boss-level threat that wreaked havoc during the Great War of Gods and Demons. Agatsuma admits killing it is impossible, so their only chance to win is to seal the monster again. Nagi does not hesitate, takes the enemy's attention, leaving Suiki to manage the base, and goes to deal with the threat himself. They instantly teleport away, leaving others behind. They landed deep in the mountains, in such a remote place that no one will notice the demons summoning the nightmare. If they don't stop Cerberus here, the monster will head straight to the nearest villages and wipe out the entire lobby. Harem and Yuki are already on site, but their strikes barely scratch the monster. Nagi is introduced for the first time to the real heavyweights Menafi, Road, Otrix, and Vicolt, who make up the Council of Five. These guys are the true elite of the mages of this world, from alchemists to binding masters. Even with all this fiery power, the aura from Cerberus is pure malice. One of the elders even joked that he would take him as a pet, but very quickly realized this monster is on a completely different level. So Nagi finally gives the command time to prepare for sealing. After all, this spell is a gigantic, large-scale ritual, and for it to work, it will take quite a while. Cerberus notices them and rushes into attack, forcing the group to act before he reaches the populated areas. Nagi shouts to everyone, "Hold on, now he will release a huge wave." He releases a blast of water that cuts through the air like a blade. The water crystallizes into sharp projectiles and rains down on the beast. It seems this attack is a precise hit from afar. The projectile struck the three heads of the monster, stunning it for a moment. Harem tries to seize the chance, but Cerberus has a cunning trick up his sleeve. In the blink of an eye, the beast completely disappeared from the battlefield. It makes a pro move, instantly teleporting right behind the hero's back to catch him off guard from the flank. The monster lunged and bit deeply into Hiromu's arm before he could react. Hiromu lies there, bleeding, amazed at the broken mechanism he has to deal with. Nagi realizes the situation is critical. The beast is enveloped in a toxic haze. And the fact that it teleports in space makes it almost impossible to catch. The sages sweat, pressing the seal to the limit and begging for just a few more seconds of cover. Nagi and Hiromu exchanged a glance. They knew it was time to stop holding back and unleash the most powerful duo of dragon and water. Cerberus is a real problem. It can teleport, and miasma constantly seeps from it everywhere. But Nagi is completely different. Her body is made of healing water, so she can touch this trash mob without getting infected. She thinks if she could withstand the petrification of the basilisk, then dog breath is a trifle for her. Suddenly a dark portal opens, and at that moment the beast prepares to strike. Nagi does not hesitate. She rushes straight into the danger zone. Cerberus breaks out of the shadow portal, but our heroine is already ready to take the aggro on herself. He raises a giant water vortex to catch the beast, and Harem loudly cheers her on while she binds the monster. Turns out her healing water form completely breaks the miasma. Cerberus, realizing he is losing, resorts to a sneaky trick, trying to drag Nagi into another dimension. Harem rushes forward to stop the teleportation, shouting, "No way will I allow this." Two dragons latch onto the three-headed nightmare, pinning it to the ground, not letting it break free, and water splashes everywhere. The old sage watches from the side and anxiously asks, "Are you two okay? Because the power of this battle is about to reach a turning point." Nagi knows there is little time left and shouts back, "Don't talk nonsense. If I let go, it will escape." On the go, she comes up with a bold, very risky move to transform into a water sphere to trap the beast. Harem is horrified for her, but she calmly explains, "It's okay, I am water." She is literally going to use the shockwave from the breath attack to scatter her body just to break free from the seal. Countdown begins, and the tension is already off the charts. On the second count, Nagi completely enveloped the monster with her water trap. Sage shouted right now, as the last command was given. A powerful beam of energy pierces the water sphere and without any delay strikes Cerberus to the ground. When the smoke cleared, only a small black sphere remained in place of the monster. Nagi restructures her body and smiles with relief. They did not fall under the eternal ban of that seal. Nagi is simply happy that everyone is safe, and she beams a smile that says, "The fight is finally won." She tells the group, "Thanks to you, we managed to hit Cerberus directly and prove that you are the best duo." Nagi feels genuine admiration for the success of the plan, especially the part where the beast was crushed by the pressure of the deep water. After the threat was neutralized, the group decides that it is time to regroup with the rest of the squad. All the sages wait, bowing their heads. They know that our guys just saved their lives. Hiramu, with a trembling voice, asks if the monster has disappeared forever, and the sage confirms that it was locked in an isolated space. They locked the sphere in a highest-level box and sealed it with ancient runes. The ladies are still in shock. They say the shockwaves from the battle reached them even miles away. One of the junior sages sincerely admits that creature was truly a horrible monster. And here is a short lore. Sages are essentially top players of this world who have mastered magic for centuries. As the meeting comes to an end, Agatsuma says he is worried about what the demon race is planning. One by one, the sages leave the game, sincerely thanking Nagi and Hiramu for carrying them. Everyone says goodbye and returns back to their zones. Even the refined Lady Seiji is already ready to head home after this exhausting raid. Before the old seer leaves, she extends a special gift to Nagi. It is a bottle of Evolute, a divine elixir that she personally mixed. This thing is practically a cheat code, also called the wish drug, because it grants any wish of the one who possesses it. She warns them, as long as you do not wish to destroy the world, it will work. But there is a catch: it can only be used once. She admits that she has already used her wish, so the potion is now useless for her. Now she gives it to Nagi, because she trusts that he will use this gacha reward properly. Hiramu asks if he has any wish, and suddenly a moment of deep reflection overwhelms Nagi. For a second, he thinks about using it to return to his native world. He remembers that first arrival, how he just wanted to relax and return home as soon as possible. But when he looks back at all the friends he has made, his outlook on life has completely changed. He feels that he is not going to return. He has fallen in love with this world and the people in it. Hiramu admits that he himself has not thought of anything, and they walk towards the sunset. Before they leave, Nagi asks the chief sage for one more favor. He is looking for the best spear, but not for himself. He wants to give it to someone special. Let's quickly move to that night under the full moon. We see little Helio, who is training sweatily, still trying to master his basic equipment. Nagi arrives and catches the boy by surprise, greeting him at home. Helio is simply happy because he sees his mentor safe and sound. Nagi tells him that he brought a souvenir from the Cerberus raid. He extends the legendary spear, and the boy can hardly believe his eyes. But as soon as the second Helio touches it, the weapon instantly turns into rusty junk. The poor boy thinks he broke it, but Nagi tells the legend of the Theo-Oxus spear. This weapon was once used by a legendary hero, and its true power is revealed only when it recognizes its owner. He tells Helio, if you continue to train persistently and hone your skills, the spear will finally acknowledge you and shine again. Helio now burns with determination. He promises to do everything he can. Nagi tells the boy rest recovery is also part of the path. When the day fades, we see fluffy paws kneading the earth. And we end the day with a tender shot. A white tiger and winged kittens sleep peacefully, quietly purring after a long day. Peace is a luxury we cannot afford right now, looking at the quiet outskirts of the city. Our guy Nagi and the team were just relaxing when a letter from Yona finally arrived. Nagi immediately dives into updates to see how his former comrade is doing in the big league. Turns out this guy trains here around the clock under the watchful eye of Lady Anya, commander of the Holy Knights. He is not alone either. He is in a powerful team with 4 other heroes blessed by the gods. Before us is the full lineup of top talents. Here is Marshall. He has a cheat code that controls the weather, Kinya a master of alchemy, and Menelis can literally grow an entire forest with his plant magic. And then the true giant of the group, Ranil, the hero of fire, whom Yona looks up to as the highest example. Yona is determined to break into the top. He writes that he will definitely become a great hero. At home, the rest of the squad feels the pressure they have to keep up with such a crazy growth pace. Nagi sincerely rejoices that the boy is making good acquaintances and has not yet broken down from the harsh training. That calm was interrupted by Philly, who arrived with a serious expression on her face. The Kreswov Academy, obsessed with points, and the Reform School Iron Gate with the motto character above all. She announced explosive news. Her team had stumbled upon a dungeon hidden deep in the forest. In this world, dungeons are like a gacha machine that dispenses rare resources, but at the same time a political nightmare that can bring the wrath of all neighboring countries. Billy acted wisely. She did not let the news out and made her entire scout team swear to keep it absolutely secret. She did not even dare to enter inside, yet first she decided to return to Nagi and report to find out what to do. Nagi begins to dig into the mental wiki, as if turning the pages of memory, and stops at the fact that dungeons come in 2 types, natural and artificial. Natural ones are essentially zones where mana overflows everything and itself grows into fields or mountains depending on the environment. But artificial ones are much more insidious. They are built by dungeon masters as multi-level towers or underground labyrinths. Natural places are great for gathering raw materials, and artificial ones, that is where legendary loot is found, but they are teeming with deadly traps. Nagi understands that if it is a natural dungeon, countries will rush to fight over the harvest, and if it is artificial, it could be a demon trap. The very next day, they decide to circle the perimeter to understand what they are dealing with. When the group makes their way through dense thickets, the air around seems to begin changing. They have officially found themselves in the very heart of a natural dungeon. The landscape is simply incredible, as if the world has cracked. The flowers are so bright and gigantic that it seems just looking at them will give you a poisonous debuff. All this is due to the insanely dense magical energy that permeates the soil. Suddenly, Nagi notices something massive, a tree with a weathered ancient face carved into its bark. Billy is on alert, but Nagi immediately recognizes this creature. It is a Trant, a legendary plant monster, usually calm and less provoked. These creatures are actually on the brink of extinction. Humans mercilessly hunted them to make magical wands and collect fruits that enhance power. Realizing they had stumbled upon a true goldmine of rare materials, Nagi decided they needed to return and devise a plan before others found out about this place. Under the crescent moon, the town's high council gathers to discuss the discovery. The leaders are shocked such a huge manhole existed so close to home. The discussion heats up. They argue whether it is even worth trying to clear the zone. Some participants already feel the insane potential for profit hidden in the rare flowers and materials. Everyone is unanimous, this must be cleaned up, no options. However, Etna is literally sweating from fear that this news will get out. She knows well that human greed is no joke and fears that as soon as other countries hear about the loot, they will try to seize their lands. The room is divided. They cannot openly trade these resources because the outside world will immediately notice everything. A representative of Lamia advises trading only with current allies so that everything remains quiet and unnoticed. Nagi notices that Etna behaves especially cautiously. She still fears how people wield power. The gnome in the room seems to tell everyone to calm down. No one is stupid enough to provoke the great spirit Nagi. After spending a sleepless night, they decided to report their discovery only to the kingdoms of dragons, Finrelt, and Judla. They know as soon as the highest level items start changing hands, secrets will not last long. Instead of hiding everything and ruining trust, they will play diplomacy with allies, and Nagi will become the last barrier against any countries that decide to intervene. The next morning, they sent a squad of hardened fighters, the official team for the raid. The younger kids are just going crazy. They are not allowed to attend the party. Nagi is forced with a heart in her throat to explain that deeper inside, there are probably high-level monsters lurking that will destroy them in one hit. As a compromise, he agrees to take them to the outskirts to hunt monsters and help protect the city. They even take Balagius with them to strengthen fire support. Children behave as if they are on a great adventure. They are all excited and eager to start training. Some nasty, trash-looking mobs are already lurking in the darkness. To work in the tall grass, something big is definitely waiting for them, and it sounds like it is already ready to hunt. The squad in the forest is finally at the long-needed training. Rudo and Helio are honing their coordination. Suddenly, Rudo's spider sense tremble hears suspicious rustling in the thickets. Even before the threat can manifest, Nagi shouts for everyone to duck while preparing a counterattack. Rudo does not hesitate, releases a stream of water magic at insanely high pressure with a sharp cry. He is completely focused at putting all his mana into this first move. A pair of vile goblins was simply crushed by a sudden water explosion. Helio instantly rushes to check if Lord Nagi is okay, but our guy is calm as always. He is quietly impressed by how much the kids are leveling up their combat skills. Nagi decides to retreat a bit so the guys can absorb all the XP, but Balagius suddenly senses another presence nearby. Even more trash mobs are advancing along the supply line, and they are by no means friendly. Nagi warns the group, if we get surrounded, it's a direct path to game over, so stay away. Rudo notices besides the goblins caught in crossfire, there is something else here. A pack of goblins was pressing a helpless victim, driving it deeper into the thicket. It turns out to be a tiny winged creature, resembling a kitten, clearly suffering from serious negative effects. Rudo is ready to draw the enemy's attention to save it, although Helio warns about the tactical risk of falling into an ambush. Rudo cannot just stand and only shout that this child will die if we don't hurry. Seeing the determination of his friends, Helio bursts into the fight to clear the lobby together. Nagi gives them the green light and assures, if anything goes suspiciously, he will intervene immediately. Do rush forward without any delay. Rudo releases a powerful stream of water and hits that disgusting goblin face directly, while Helio maneuvers, preparing to finish it off with a spear. Helio goes all out, a powerful strike, and the monster freezes unexpectedly. Goblins squealed as their health bars dropped to 0. The last wave of magic rolled across the clearing, while the children gave their all. Rudo finishes off the last of the stragglers with a timely burst of elemental power. When everything was finally cleared, the boys sighed and surveyed the battlefield. They rush to the unconscious creature, and Rudo practically begs it to hold on. Nagi steps forward with powerful healing and instantly heals the child's wounds. Although the physical damage disappeared, the creature looks completely exhausted, without a drop of energy. Rudo thinks it is simply hungry and without hesitation offers his lunch to help it recover. Little fluffy one cautiously sniffs the bread. Suddenly it grabs the food and rushes to the entrance of the nearest cave. The crew decides to follow to finally see what is really happening in the darkness. They step into the cave and hear the echo of creatures bouncing off the damp walls. Deep inside, the baby gently places the bread in front of a much larger figure. It tries to push the food toward its father or mother, hoping to eat together. It continuously touches the father with its paw, desperately seeking any reaction. But the truth is harsh. The one called father is just a cold skeleton slowly decaying. The realization hits the group like a truck they watch as the baby mourns its lost relatives. Finally, the poor creature collapses from exhaustion and grief. Rudo completely loses composure and stares in shock at the tragic scene. Nagi harshly tells the truth, the world is harsh and this child will not survive alone. Helio worries that bringing a wild animal into the city could lead to trouble, but Rudo does not back down. He gazes at the orphan and says, "This child is like myself." He remembers if Nagi had not intervened and saved him, he would no longer be here. Rudo begs Nagi to allow him to take full responsibility for the child's life. Seeing Rudo's unwavering determination, Nagi blesses him and trusts the boy's heart. They do not rush, they carefully erect a worthy monument to the one who died and even leave a small drawing on the stone. Rudo beams with pride and loudly declares that from now on he is the older brother of this little creature. We move to another training ground where a powerful strike simply shattered the heavy glove to pieces. Mrs. Anya, the instructor, said that the session for Yona and Renal was over. The two boys are completely exhausted after the grueling routine and sit down to recover a little. Yona is disappointed in himself. Today he managed to score only 1 point against Raniel. He is truly impressed. Raniel is simply incredible in their sparrings. Renio responds with a compliment, sincerely acknowledging that Yona is also becoming a real beast. He says that Yona has a rare talent both in spirit magic and in swordsmanship. Yona is delighted to hear that his hard work is bearing fruit. But when Yona vows to close the gap between them, a deep melancholy freezes on Raniel's face, suggesting that much more is hidden beneath the surface. The silence of the mansion was shattered by a sudden loud rumble that rolled through the corridors. Rudo and our guy rush to the source of the noise and discover a chaotic scene with debris flying everywhere. Under the shadows of the furniture hides a small, roaring tiger cub, as if ready to bite anyone who dares to approach. But this is not just some stray kitten, it is a Eucharion, a legendary species with white furry wings and a magical eye on its forehead, granting them unique random abilities. Neji tries to appear calm, reaching out his hand to lure the little beast out of hiding. But the cub does not calm down at all. It immediately attacks and bites Neji's hand, while Rudo looks on in complete panic. Eventually, Rudo manages to catch the fiery, fluffy ball, but he clearly suffers. It keeps biting him all the time. "Ouch, don't bite me," he pleads, though the little bear is clearly just confused in the new environment. There are no instructions on how to raise a legendary creature, so the group just improvises. Rudo understands that professional help is needed and suggests going to the city to consult the best students of Agatsumi. They found Neo and Luo, two researchers who live more in books than in the sun. Light, as soon as they hear the words Yukari on cube, their eyes light up as if they just pulled 3 SSRs in one 10-pull. They say Eucharions are so rare that seeing one is almost a myth, let alone finding a baby. Nagi must set boundaries and explain that the baby is still too wary for serious scientific observation. The students are disappointed but agree to wait and pass on several legends they extracted from ancient texts. It seems these creatures are the top predators who almost never leave their territory. Their magical eye is no joke. It can apply debuffs like petrification, illusions, or even complete invisibility. To help the bear cub settle, the apprentices suggest they might need some item to overcome the communication barrier. They eagerly awaited the dungeon expedition team's return with rare materials that could advance their medical research. Rudo desperately searches for a way to truly understand what the baby feels. Lywell recalls a potion for the mind of a beast that works as a universal translator for animals. The only but is that these materials are incredibly hard to find. Perhaps they are hidden somewhere deep in the dungeon. Maggie decisively decides, as soon as they return, they will immediately check the expedition's loot. For now, they return to check on the baby, who is still hiding under the Furnituria True Homebody. The food and milk were not even touched, and the baby looks as if serious negative mood effects have fallen on its sadness, depression, and apathy. Nagi tells Rudo to step back and give it some space, knowing that such a bond cannot be rushed. Rudo holds her head high and promises to wait until the little tiger cub finally opens its heart. The next day, Philly and the expedition team finally return to the city after a successful journey. She greets Nagi with a huge smile, showing off the loot that any farmer would envy. They obtain nectar orona, precious ingredient for evolution elixirs. Nagi carefully examines the sapphire leafa material of the highest grade, capable of erasing even the most vile curses. Billy begins to lay out her dungeon clearing strategy, explaining how they set up the base to start grinding. The lower levels swarmed small insect-like enemies, giant ants and mantises. Nagi is stunned that he hadn't encountered them earlier, and Philly explains that the aura of the great spirits probably made them hide. The team tore off a bunch of poison and shells from those beetles. They also came across plant monsters, dryads and orinus, quickly dealing with them to get even more loot. These materials are a great rarity on the market, so the team seems to be sitting on a gold mine. Neon, Neo, and Luol are at their best because it allows them to skillfully create various top-level medicines. Billy says that there are about 100 monsters in the dungeon. They will all respawn sooner or later, so materials will come in constantly. Between trance and herbs, she considers this dungeon first class. Nagi repeats the rank and only now realizes what incredible value they accidentally found. He recalls that the guild evaluates dungeons by two criteria: their difficulty and the quality of the loot. Difficulty is divided into 5 levels from the simplest to the most complex. Meanwhile, the quality of the loot is ranked from poor to the best. Since they are sitting on a rich gold deposit, Nagi decides it's time to give this place a worthy name rather than just calling it that dungeon. The students are all delighted. They ask their master to give it a name that suits its character. Nagi freezes for a moment and imagines this place. He thinks about bright flowers and that only the chosen can reach them. He remembers towering plant monsters guarding the groves. He suggests, what if it's the secret kingdom of plant beasts, and the team is simply thrilled by this atmosphere. Just as they began planning the next expedition, Nagi's gamer intuition trembled. He suddenly felt a sharp, piercing wave in the air. A surge of spiritual energy struck him, his eyes widened, and he realized something was very wrong. He feels that one of the spirits with whom he made a contract is now in mortal danger. These are not the heavy hitters like Suiko or Yona. This is someone much more vulnerable. It's Rue, the very first familiar he once assigned to help a boy named Lumina years ago. Out of the corner of our eye, we see Lumina, now older, desperately summoning his water magic to defend himself. Monsters tear the village to pieces, and the screams of the people rip through the air. Lumina is drenched in sweat as a terrible monster, resembling a squid, looms over him. The monster's aura is a true nightmare, and the boy petrifies with fear as it prepares to strike. He tries to block, but the monster's strength is overwhelming, and he is thrown back. Just as the monster was about to finish him off, Naga's presence appeared like a true god descending onto the battlefield. With a single smooth motion, he summons a huge water sphere, trapping the monster inside and shielding Lumina. With a light wrist movement, the water pressure crushes the monster, sending it back to the respawn screen in a bloody explosion. Nagi lands softly and picks up a glowing shard left behind by the beast, a corrupted lesser water spirit. Lumina lifts his head, tears streaming down his face. He recognizes his savior. Nagi turns his gaze to Rue. Rue looks incredibly battered after so many blows. The scene is grim. Wounded villagers lie all around, but Nagi releases a burst of healing light that instantly heals their wounds. People call it a miracle, but Nagi simply quietly gives Lumina a sign: let no one find out who he really is. Despite the rescue, the village is in terrible condition. Houses are leveled to the ground, and the surrounding land is covered with scars. Nagi surveys the destruction, his face hardening. He understands that things cannot just be left as they are. The mothers of Narsha and Lumina run outside, sighing with relief. Their boy is among the dead after that monster attack. Narsha had no idea about the boy in the hood who stood there and asked, "Older brother, who is this?" Lumina felt a burst of nostalgia when he realized that his little sister was so small when Nagi first saved them that she doesn't even remember his face. Lumina remains professional and introduces him as Lord Nagi, the one who saved his life several years ago. Tension rises as the village elders call a meeting to decide what to do next. It's a harsh awakening for our boy. He watches as bodies are carried away and realizes that many people lacked the plot armor to survive until his arrival. Nagi just relaxes on a crate while Lu hovers nearby, waiting for Lumina to finish his business with the survivors. Finally, Lumina catches up with him, apologizing for making him wait. Nagi became interested in the sudden growth spurt and light abilities, noticing how his bond with the little water spirit is strengthening. He is fascinated that in that last clash, Lumina really used true spirit magic. Lumina begins to recall how Lu seemed to be his guardian angel from the very day he met Nagi. Even when his mother barely nicked her finger with scissors, Lu was already sitting in the shade, quietly starting to help. His mother always thought it was just some random spirit blessing and never guessed that the real hero was right nearby. Lumina had dreamed for years to see with his own eyes and thanked the spirit that kept his family healthy. On his 7th birthday, he finally drew the legendary prize. A mysterious mark appeared on his hand, and he finally could see Lu's kind face. It was then that the merchant Philly arrived, and things got truly interesting. The spirit in the contract mark on Lumina's right hand immediately caught Philly the elf's eye. She was genuinely excited and said, "Maybe your feelings will separate and you will lose the connection," and it happened naturally. Philly is not just a random NPC. As an elf, she freely uses spirit magic and doesn't even need a contract. She offers to teach Lumin other tricks so he can become a top mage like Nagi. Returning to the present, Lumina clenches his hands, feeling like a low-level noob because he couldn't defeat that last boss on his own. He says that the monster is on a completely different level than anything he has ever seen. Nagi reveals a terrifying truth. That thing is a crystal of a water spirit which demons have turned into a killing machine. The threat of demons is growing worldwide. Now even remote villages like this one are targeted. Nagu looks Lumina straight in the eyes and firmly says that since Lu is like a native child to him, Lumina is no less important to him. He tells the boy, "If you ever find yourself in trouble, count on me." Lumina does not hesitate, bows her head and pleads, "Lord Nagi, please save this village." It breaks the heart to see him break down, telling that they have lost so many people and their food supplies are completely destroyed. Sweat drips from him at the thought that his people will starve if another wave of monsters strikes them. The situation is grim. Only about 20 men have survived, and they are the ones forced to protect the injured women and children. Nagi knows very well that he cannot simply relocate them to his lake. The Dark Elves there will lose their peace when they see people settling. He signals to step forward by placing his hand on the head of the crying boy. He gives his word that he will support them so they can rebuild their home from scratch. Nagi understands if some stranger suddenly starts giving away things for no reason, the villagers might become wary. He decides to show his true form to become a great spirit to ease the transition. The next day, Lumina brings him to the village elder and Neji drops a bombshell. "I am Neji, the great spirit of water." To reinforce her words, Lumina passionately tells how Neji years ago saved his mother from an incurable disease. The crowd froze. Everyone was shocked. Why did the true god come to meet them? Neji modestly says that he is simply acting in response to a contract that Lumina made with his familiar. As if on command, reinforcements arrived with carts loaded with loot. Billy and a stocky dwarf named Garu jump out, ready to take on everything from supplies to building repairs. Seeing the cavalry, the entire village simultaneously bowed down and prostrated themselves, showing deep respect. Nagi tells them to relax and raise their heads. Food is far more important than his pride. He hands over the distribution to the village head. He himself cannot navigate this area. As soon as the villagers began to be fed, the mood completely changed. Hope came instead of despair. Lumina approaches Nagi, a little guilty for revealing his secret identity to everyone. Nagi is not worried. He is simply happy that Lumina's family looks healthy and grateful. Even little sister Nasha finally remembered again the spirit who saved her when she was a baby. Natty gives her warm, heartfelt advice to continue supporting each other as a family, to which she responds with the sincerest smile. Suddenly, a loud rumble interrupts the moment. Garrett begins to smash the house. Nagi is like, "Yo, what are you doing? That house could still be used." But the dwarf has a broader vision. He proudly shows the plans of a huge project that is meant to transform the village's architecture. Now all that remains is to sweat from the enthusiasm of the gnome who wants to completely rebuild everything. As the sun sets over the ruins, restoration is in full swing, and hope finally begins to take root in the village. He learns that he has transformed into the great water spirit, and this huge lake is now his true body.